that Tsundere goddess falls in love with me. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601 Rare Disease. From the movement of the bronze sword, it can be seen that the evil spirit appeared in front of him, that is, Yang Menghun, who was dancing behind the red gauze. Although the evil spirit was found, it seemed difficult to eliminate it. Lu Chuan thought carefully, and it seemed that he could only wait until the end of the performance to see if he could have a chance to contact Yang Menghun backstage. However, according to today's stage arrangement, Yang Zun obviously did not want everyone to see Yang Menghun's appearance. Could it be that the evil spirit has affected her body? Lu Chuan felt that this was possible, and the possibility was very high. If so, wouldn't it be more difficult for him to see Yang Menghun? If he could help her eliminate the evil spirit in her body, maybe he could use it as a bargaining chip to exchange for the fairy grass. At this time, Zanshianayu next to him noticed the situation on Lu Chuan's side and asked quickly, "I feel that you are weird. Is there something wrong?" He looked at Lu Chuan and then looked down at the bronze sword in Lu Chuan's hand. "Your bronze sword looks really inferior, but it is covered with a layer of glow, which makes it look very special." He touched his chin and stared at the bronze sword in Lu Chuan's hand very seriously. Lu Chuan put away the long sword and put the scabbard back on his back. "Nothing. Let's continue watching the show. It's a pity, right? I finally came to see her performance, but I can't see anything, not even what she looks like." Zanshianayu shrugged helplessly. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "That's right. I can't see anything. I can only see the moving dance. I think many people are dissatisfied. They won't make a fuss." Zanshianayu shook his head. "That's definitely impossible. These people gathered here, not just to watch the performance, but more to expand their network and make more friends. This is an opportunity, a platform. Only people with problems in their brains will make trouble at this time." What he said makes sense. Even if the audience is dissatisfied, they will not stand up and make trouble directly. At most, they will stop watching the performance and chat more with the people next to them. Gradually, the dance show came to an end. As the music slowly faded, Yang Menghun on the stage stopped dancing and bowed deeply to the audience. At this time, Yang Zun came out, looked at everyone, and said with a smile, "Thank you again for coming to appreciate my daughter's performance. I know that you are not satisfied with what you watched today. You can stay and chat. I will arrange for a top chef to serve you delicious food." After speaking, he glanced at everyone present and seemed to be in deep thought for a moment. Then, he cleared his throat, swallowed his saliva, and said nervously, "Everyone, I have a request, but I don't know whether I should say it or not." Everyone in the audience looked at each other, and then they all said, "If City Lord Yang encounters any trouble, just tell us. It's no problem. We are all acquaintances. We will help if we can. Just tell me, what trouble have you encountered?" Yang Zun's face relaxed a little, and then he said, "It's like this. My daughter recently contracted a strange disease, which made her originally snow white skin become ulcerated and very creepy. It is for this reason that she stays indoors all day and dares not see anyone. On the day of the performance, I wanted to persuade her to postpone the performance, but she told me that dancing is the meaning of her life. If she can't dance, it would be tantamount to killing her. That's why I agreed to her performance and made this layer of red gauze. I'm really afraid of scaring you. I didn't mean to prevent you from seeing clearly." Yang Zun finished speaking in a serious tone, and everyone in the audience looked at each other. "City Lord Yang, do you mean to use everyone's connections to find a miracle doctor to cure your daughter's skin disease?" "Yes, that's right, that's right. You are all powerful gods. I believe with your help, we can definitely find a solution," Yang Zun said excitedly, and seeing that the people in front of him did not refuse, he ignited hope in his heart. "We are all acquaintances. I will definitely help you. If I have any news about a miracle doctor in this area, I will definitely introduce him to you. There is a miracle doctor in my family, but he has no experience in treating rare skin diseases, so City Lord Yang, why don't you let me go on stage to see? I have studied medicine since I was a child. I'm proficient in various medical skills, and I know how to treat many skin diseases. At this time, someone volunteered, stood up, and looked at Yang Zun seriously. Seeing this, Yang Zun immediately became excited. Then please ask on the spot to see if you can solve this disease. Then, the man walked out of the audience and walked towards the stage. He lifted the red gauze from the side, walked onto the stage, and stood in front of Yang Menghuan. The next moment, a scream was heard. Ah! The man on the stage was so frightened that his legs softened and he almost fell to the ground. Seeing this, Yang Menghuan couldn't help but lower her head and sobbed softly. Miss Yang, I'm really sorry, I can't bear it anymore. Let me take your pulse now. He walked forward and put his hand on Yang Menghuan's wrist. After a while, he frowned and looked worried. After waiting for a while, he didn't know what to say. He withdrew his hand, stood there, and sighed helplessly. I'm really sorry, my medical skills are not good. I can't see what the cause of the disease is. The girl's condition is serious. I'm afraid we need to find another expert. Then he walked off the stage. Everyone in the audience couldn't help but murmur in a low voice when they heard this. Yang Menghuan's illness seems to be very serious. I think this illness is not simple. It makes this person feel so powerless. He doesn't even have a chance. I'm afraid it can't be cured. There should be other miracle doctors in the audience. Let them go on stage and take a look. Maybe someone knows a folk remedy that can cure it. Indeed, if we try a few more people, we will definitely find the cause of the disease. At this time, Yang Zun's face became very solemn. During this period of time, he also ran around to ask miracle doctors to come to his house to treat the disease. However, he found 5 or 6 doctors, but they were all helpless with the disease and had no solution at all. It even made him a little desperate. Yang Menghuan on the stage sobbed softly, seeming to be very wronged. She was already desperate in her heart. With so many bigwigs from all walks of life present today, if she still couldn't figure out the cause of her illness, she might be completely hopeless. Thinking of this, she even had the idea of committing suicide. At this time, an old man in a white robe stood up in the 5th row of the audience. Let me take a look at the stage. I have never failed to treat any difficult and complicated diseases. City Lord Yang, you should have come to me earlier. After he stood up, everyone looked over and shouted in surprise, "Huling Divine Doctor." He actually came out of seclusion. How rare. Chapter 602 Huling Divine Doctor. The man who stood up in the audience was called the Huling Divine Doctor by outsiders. He lived in seclusion in the Flower Valley. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven for ordinary people to see him. However, his medical skills were well known throughout the city. Everyone in the entire Flower City knew the superb medical skills of the Huling Divine Doctor. Even the rarest diseases, in his hands, were cured easily and without any pressure. As long as he came out of the mountains, he could always give people a sense of reassurance. Seeing this, Yang Zun laughed excitedly. When he sent the invitation letter to the Huling Divine Doctor, he never thought that he would agree to come out of the mountains to enjoy the performance in Flower City. Unexpectedly, he actually came. This was definitely a pleasant surprise for Yang Zun. Yang Zun hurriedly looked at the Huling Divine Doctor and said respectfully, "Thank you for your generosity, old man. I'm very grateful." He raised his hand and interrupted Yang Zun. "Don't say so much, just leave the rest to me." Hearing him say this, the stone hanging in Yang Zun's heart fell. His daughter's rare skin disease was finally going to be cured. Then, the old man came down from the audience and walked towards the stage. The audience members stood up and made room for him. They were all respectful and fearful, afraid of offending this god. On the stage, Yang Menghuan stopped sobbing and once again rekindled hope. She looked at Huling Divine Doctor with hopeful eyes. At this time, in the audience, Lu Chuan looked at the old man curiously. "Is this man's medical skills very good?" Lu Chuan asked. Zhan Xianyu nodded slightly. "It's normal that you don't know. This old man is called Chang Yun. He has never failed in his medical practice. Any disease that falls into his hands is cured. No one doubts his ability. Everyone in the city knows his medical skills. as long as he comes out to treat Yang Menghuan. I'm afraid that this rare skin disease on her body will get better soon. It seems that she is lucky. She can invite Chang Yun to help, thanks to her father, the city lord. If it were an ordinary person, I'm afraid there would be no such opportunity. Zhan Xiaonayu turned his head and looked at Lu Chuan. Have some dessert. It's also a kind of enjoyment to watch the practice of the miracle doctor. Lu Chuan picked up the fruit next to him and put it in his mouth. At this time, Chang Yun had already stepped on the stage and came to Yang Menghuan. When he first saw the festering skin on Yang Menghuan's body, he couldn't help but tremble in his heart and paused for a moment. Fortunately, he was experienced and soon calmed down. Girl, how long have you had symptoms? More than 3 months. At first, it was just itchy skin, but gradually it festered. Now, except for this face, there are few healthy skins on my body. Chang Yun nodded slightly and then stepped forward to start taking her pulse. Yang Menghuan lifted her sleeves, but the clothes were stuck to the festered flesh on her body, making it very difficult to lift them up, causing Yang Menghuan's face to turn painful. Chang Yun immediately took her hand and started taking her pulse. After waiting quietly for a moment, everyone in the audience became nervous. Some of them had seen Yang Menghuan's appearance before. She was quite beautiful, with delicate features, fair skin, and a standard oval face. It would be a pity if she, who looked sweet, was completely disfigured because of a serious illness. After all, she had never had a lover, and she was disfigured before she fell in love. This kind of pain was unbearable. Yang Zun paced back and forth on the stage, feeling extremely nervous, and wanted to rush up to ask about the situation immediately. But his reason told him that it was useless to be anxious. He was a miracle doctor, so he should choose to trust him and let him see the doctor properly. He should not disturb him. The audience off the stage, who knew the name of healing miracle doctor, would not take this matter too seriously. In their opinion, as long as Chang Yun took action, there was no disease that could not be cured. However, Chang Yun on the stage, after taking the pulse for a long time, still had no clue. Grandpa, is my disease still curable? Yang Menghuan looked at Chang Yun with hope. This was her last hope. Chang Yun frowned, his face was full of worry, and he was slow to respond. His fingers kept groping on Yang Menghuan's wrist, but he was still unsure of the result. Gradually, his face became solemn. Seeing that his face was getting uglier, Yang Menghuan began to get nervous. Grandpa, is it? I'm hopeless. Yang Menghuan was extremely nervous. Chang Yun took his hand back, stepped aside, and swallowed helplessly. I'm really sorry, I don't understand your condition, young lady. I've been practicing medicine for decades, but this is the first time I've seen such a special skin disease. I'm really ashamed of my title of miracle doctor. After he finished speaking, he turned around, lifted the red veil, and slowly walked off the stage. Yang Menghuan was stunned on the stage, and he didn't recover for a long time, and couldn't speak for a long time. Yang Zun, who was in the audience, was also stunned when he heard Chang Yun say this. It seemed like a huge rock was pressing on his chest, making him breathless. Seeing this, everyone in the audience was extremely surprised. Chang Yun actually had a day of failure. This is so rare, and there are actually diseases that he can't treat. This is simply outrageous. Yang Zun quickly stopped Chang Yun and asked, is there really nothing you can see? He asked quickly. Chang Yun stood there, looked at Yang Zun, and said, when I took her pulse, I found that Menghuan's pulse was no different from that of a normal person. Logically, she should not be sick. But she does have symptoms of skin disease. I want to prescribe you some prescriptions, but I can't see the specific symptoms. Taking medicine casually may accelerate the deterioration. So, you should understand that I don't have this ability. After that, Chang Yun returned to the audience and sat in his original seat, looking lonely. Yang Zun was stunned and said helplessly, if Chang Yun, the genius doctor, can't cure it, then I'm afraid there is no hope at all. He looked at everyone and said, this news is undoubtedly a major blow to me. Since Mr. Chang Yun has no clue, Menghuan may have to accept her fate. After that, he looked at Yang Menghuan on the stage and said, daughter, don't despair. You still have a long life. Let's take it slowly. Yang Menghuan stood on the stage, feeling very depressed. She had long been disheartened and had no hope at all. Dad, I understand. I will dance through this layer of red gauze in the future. It's fine as long as I can move. Hearing this, Yang Zun smiled with relief. Okay, I will support you to continue dancing in the future. At this time, Lu Chuan suddenly said, if the disease is not treated in time, it will be life-threatening. This is not as simple as whether you can dance or not. Lu Chuan suddenly said something shocking, attracting the attention of the whole audience. Yang Zun looked over and asked quickly, what do you mean by this? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 603 Lu Chuan takes action. Yang Zun looked directly at Lu Chuan, with a slightly dissatisfied look on his face. Zhan Xianyu also looked at Lu Chuan in surprise. Don't talk nonsense. You can't treat illnesses. Why are you cursing people to death? That's right. She's alive and well now, and her body can move. Why do you say she's going to die? If you can't talk, just shut up. No one thinks you're dumb. What the miracle doctor doesn't dare to conclude is it your turn to talk nonsense here. Don't talk nonsense here. Meng Huan is fine now. It's just that her skin is not good. Everyone in the audience started to criticize Lu Chuan, pointing the finger at Lu Chuan. Yang Zun looked at Lu Chuan and said coldly, why do you say my daughter is going to die? She has been ill for more than 3 months, and except for the skin problem, everything else is fine. Just now, she finished a dance, so young and energetic. Why do you say she won't live long? Yang Zun's questioning was as cold as a knife, making it difficult to answer. If Lu Chuan were asked to explain directly now, it would not be easy to explain. If we directly say that Yang Menghuan is possessed by an evil spirit, I'm afraid few people will believe it. Zhan Xianyu looked at Lu Chuan and said quickly, hurry up and apologize to him. Why should I apologize to him? I didn't say anything wrong. Zhan Xianyu had a speechless expression on his face. Okay, you are really not afraid of offending people. He turned his head to the side and said nothing more to him. Lu Chuan stood up and looked at Yang Zun. City Lord Yang, I know you have been running around for your daughter's illness and have made great efforts. But I want to say that you are working in the wrong direction. This is not a disease at all. Yang Zun frowned and asked quickly, what are you talking about? How can this not be a disease? Something else is at work. This has nothing to do with the disease. Lu Chuan walked down from the audience and walked towards the stage. It is normal that Mr. Chang Yun's pulse diagnosis has no results. What do you want to say? Yang Zun asked coldly. Lu Chuan stood in front of the stage and said, let me go on stage. I can completely eliminate your daughter's illness. You? Yang Zun looked at him suspiciously. He looked at him and said, I don't think you have the ability. You are so young. Even if you have been practicing medicine since childhood, you can't compare with the genius Dr. Chang Yun, right? Lu Chuan smiled awkwardly. Of course I can't compare with the genius doctor, but didn't I just say that Yang Menghuan's condition is not a disease? Since it is not a disease, there is naturally no need for a doctor to diagnose and treat it. Hearing this, Yang Zun seemed to think that there was some truth, but he also felt that Lu Chuan was talking nonsense. Who are you from? I came with Zhan Xianyu. Zhan Xianyu turned his head to the side, as if trying to distance himself from Lu Chuan. Let me think about it. He frowned and looked to the side with a worried look on his face. Lu Chuan continued to persuade him, this is your last chance. There is no harm in letting me go on stage and try. I don't think there is anything to think about. Okay, then let you go on stage and take a look. Let's try it out. As soon as these words came out, some people in the audience were unhappy. No, I finally came to see a performance and couldn't see Yang Menghuan's true appearance with my own eyes. Why can he go on stage and see Yang Menghuan with his own eyes? Is he special? I think this guy is just talking nonsense. His real purpose is actually to go on stage and take a look at what Yang Menghuan looks like. That's right, this guy is too cunning. He actually came up with such a trick. It's simply impossible to guard against. I think he will say that he is helpless. Anyway, there is no loss, and no one can hold him accountable. If that's the case, then I will also say that I can cure the disease. Anyway, I have tried my best, whether I can cure it or not. You can't blame me. I also want to go on stage and take a look at Yang Menghuan with my own eyes. Everyone in the audience expressed dissatisfaction and even felt that Lu Chuan used a trick just to take a look at Yang Menghuan. Hearing the rumors from the audience, Yang Zun hesitated. He began to doubt Lu Chuan's true purpose. But seeing how confident Lu Chuan was just now, he was unsure for a moment. Go on stage. I'll give you one chance, just this once. Lu Chuan nodded slightly, then lifted the red veil and walked onto the stage. In front of him, Yang Menghuan was standing in the center of the stage. Now seeing her appearance with his own eyes, Lu Chuan had to sigh that she was indeed very beautiful, the kind that people would fall in love with at first sight. However, the lonely look on her face made her look a little melancholy. Have you finished reading? Go down after you finished reading, Yang Menghuan said maliciously. Lu Chuan looked calm and asked, your illness only started 3 months ago. Guess in your mind and see if you can guess what the cause is. Lu Chuan asked tentatively. Many people knew that they were possessed by evil spirits, but they just thought they were lucky and had accidentally gained new powers. Yang Menghuan looked at Lu Chuan with disgust. What are you asking? If I could guess the cause of the disease, would I need you to go on stage? Before that, have you had any sudden changes, such as a rapid improvement in strength, or a sudden increase in the speed of cultivation, or a sudden increase in your dancing skills? After saying that, Lu Chuan looked at Yang Menghuan seriously. I hope you can tell the truth. Outside the venue, everyone was very impatient, thinking that Lu Chuan's question was too ridiculous, and it didn't seem like something a normal person could ask. However, Yang Menghuan fell into deep thought. There was a time when there was always a voice in my ear. She asked me if I wanted to become the #1 dancer in Huacheng. That voice echoed in my ears for a long time, until I said I wanted to, and the auditory hallucination finally disappeared. After that, my dancing skills really grew very fast. I just felt that my control over my body became stronger, and I could do many difficult moves. She suddenly looked up at Lu Chuan. Isn't that what you want to ask? She looked at Lu Chuan in surprise. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. Yes, that's it. This is the so-called cause of the disease. As soon as these words came out, Yang Menghuan's eyes widened immediately. This is the cause of the disease? Yang Zun, who was in the audience, was stunned and his mind was already confused. In the audience, Chang Yun also raised his head and looked at Lu Chuan's figure seriously, as if he seemed to have eyebrows. Next, I will cut off this so-called cause of the disease, and your festering skin will be restored immediately. Then, Lu Chuan began to draw his sword. Yang Zun, who was standing in the audience, was extremely nervous. What was Lu Chuan going to do by drawing his sword? Swish! Exclamation mark. Suddenly, Lu Chuan stepped forward, rushed to Yang Menghuan, and quickly swung the bronze sword in his hand. The sword blade slashed around Yang Menghuan, and the action was crisp and smooth. However, the people in the audience looked through the red gauze and only saw Lu Chuan making the action of swinging the sword at Yang Menghuan, and they didn't know that Lu Chuan didn't hurt Yang Menghuan at all. Yang Zun immediately became angry. Asshole, you actually drew your sword and chopped my daughter. He was about to rush onto the stage in anger. Chapter 604, Killing the Evil Spirit. Through the red gauze, everyone only saw Lu Chuan swinging his sword and slashing at Yang Menghuan. However, they didn't know the specific angle or the real situation. Yang Zun, who was standing in the audience, was furious in an instant, and he lifted the red gauze and rushed forward. In the audience, everyone was shocked by Lu Chuan's sudden move. Is this guy crazy? He dared to swing his sword at his daughter in front of Yang Zun. He is so brave. Is he here to commit murder? He is hiding well enough. Is this called seeing a doctor? He just swung his sword and slashed at her. Haha, I heard that this guy was brought by Zhenshai. This is embarrassing. The crowd was talking non-stop. They all felt that Lu Chuan was too bold to even think of such a murder method. Zhenshai, who was sitting in front, saw this and his face became stiff. He didn't know what Lu Chuan was doing, but there was no doubt that this had offended Yang Zun. At this time, Yang Zun lifted the red veil and rushed forward, shouting at Lu Chuan, "Stop it, you bastard." He raised his hand and pointed at Lu Chuan, but when he saw that Yang Menghuan was unharmed, he froze in his tracks. You didn't cut her?" Yang Zun froze, looking at Lu Chuan in confusion. Lu Chuan continued to look directly at Yang Menghuan. Although Yang Menghuan was unharmed, her condition had obviously become abnormal. She began to twitch all over, her eyes rolled back, and she looked up, as if her soul had left her body. Seeing this, Yang Zun immediately panicked. "Daughter, what's wrong with you?" He walked forward and looked at Yang Menghuan with a worried look on his face. He turned his head to look at Lu Chuan and asked loudly, "What's wrong with her? What did you do to her?" Lu Chuan put away the bronze sword, stood there, and waited quietly. "Don't touch her, be careful of getting into danger." Yang Zun stood there, looked at Lu Chuan, and continued to ask, "What is going on? Can Menghuan's illness be cured?" He asked with a blank face, completely unaware of the situation in front of him. Lu Chuan just said silently, "An evil spirit is parasitic in her body, constantly eroding her vitality. Because of this, her whole body is festering. If the evil spirit is not expelled from her body in time, she will definitely die." Hearing this, Yang Zun's expression suddenly became solemn. He didn't know how long he hadn't heard of evil spirits. He thought that such things no longer existed in Kunlun domain. "I saw it. The evil spirit is peeling out of her body." Yang Zun stared at Yang Menghuan seriously and saw a black shadow coming out of Yang Menghuan's back, emitting a sharp and painful wail. Other harsh sound made Yang Zun's face become extremely ugly. Is this the culprit? He looked at the black shadow in front of him nervously. That's right, as long as this guy's driven out of the body, Yang Menghuan's life can be saved, Lu Chuan said decisively. Hearing this, Yang Zun was immediately very excited, and the corners of his mouth could not help but rise. So this is the cause of the disease. As long as this thing is killed, Menghuan's disease will be cured. He looked at Yang Menghuan with excitement, and the stone hanging in his heart finally fell to the ground. At this moment, the black shadow appeared, and the evil spirit was suspended in the air, shouting sharply at Lu Chuan. "Damn it, I won't forgive you." The next moment, the evil spirit in front of him rushed towards Lu Chuan. Seeing this, Yang Zun was instantly frightened and trembled all over. What should I do? This guy's coming. Yang Zun panicked and clenched his fists to prepare for a fight. Although he knew in his heart that his fists had no effect on the evil spirit, he still subconsciously took a fighting posture. Outside the red gauze, everyone heard the conversation between the two and couldn't help but feel surprised. For them, they had almost never heard of such a thing as an evil spirit. No one expected that the cause of Yang Menghuan's illness was so simple. However, this shrill and sharp cry still made everyone feel scared, and some even wanted to get up and escape from here. At this time, Lu Chuan saw the evil spirit rushing in front of him, but he was still as steady as a mountain, standing firmly in place, without any panic. Seeing this, Yang Zun couldn't help but get nervous. This guy is about to rush over. Think of a way. He shouted hurriedly. Lu Chuan said lightly, "Don't panic. It's just an evil spirit." The next moment, Lu Chuan's pupils turned dark gold. Lu Chuan raised his eyes and glared at the evil spirit. Almost instantly, the evil spirit's body began to burn with flames. The immortal golden pupil has a destructive effect on evil creatures. Most evil creatures can't last long under the immortal golden pupil. Ah! The evil spirit let out a sharp scream, and then it was burned into ashes, turning into dust and falling to the ground. The evil spirit was destroyed so easily, almost without any effort. This is the power of the immortal golden eye. Upon seeing this, Yang Zun immediately wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't expect it to be solved so easily. I didn't expect your means of dealing with evil spirits to be so powerful. If I were to face this guy, I really don't know how to fight him. He was just a martial artist who only knew how to punch and kick. It was really difficult for him to fight such an illusory thing. Then, Yang Zun saw that Yang Menghuan's body was weak and was about to collapse to the ground. He rushed forward and helped Yang Menghuan up. Her body is cold, her breathing is weak, and her face is pale. I'm afraid her condition is not very good. Yang Zun said nervously and hurriedly helped Yang Menghuan sit on the ground and whispered, "Menghuan, How do you feel? Is your body okay? Her skin was still festering and looked bloody, which was very scary. At this time, Lu Chuan came over. Leave the rest to me. I will help her recover as before. Hearing this, Yang Zun looked at Lu Chuan and asked hurriedly, my benefactor, do you have any elixirs that can save her? He asked curiously. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. I want to save her, but I don't use elixirs. Yang Zun was stunned, frowned slightly, and asked, it's not elixirs, it's this. Lu Chuan raised his hand, and a ball of flames appeared in his palm. The brilliant flames instantly attracted Yang Zun's attention. What is this? Raw sting with fire? Can this heal injuries? He asked in confusion, scratching his head with a puzzled look. Before I take action, I want to ask a question. Do you have this thing called fairy grass in your hand? Hearing this, Yang Zun asked, why are you asking this? Just answer whether you have it or not. I don't know. At this time, Yang Menghuan slowly opened his mouth and said with difficulty, I have it at home. If you want it, I can give it to you. Chapter 605. After hearing what Yang Menghuan said, Lu Chuan finally felt relieved. I can repair your injuries, but you have to give me the fairy grass. Yang Menghuan nodded slightly. No problem, I can give you whatever you want. After all, you are my savior. As she spoke, she nodded slightly a few times, indicating that she would listen to Lu Chuan's words. Okay, it's a deal. Then, Lu Chuan raised his hand and placed the flame on Yang Menghuan's body. The festering skin in the places burned by the nine heavens mysterious fire was healing at an astonishing speed. At first, Yang Zun thought it was outrageous. How could the damage on the human body be repaired by flames alone? This was completely unrealistic. He had never heard of such an outrageous thing. However, now that he saw it, this gorgeous flame really had such a miraculous effect. Lu Chuan's palm first placed on Yang Menghuan's shoulder, and then moved down along the shoulder. The festering wounds on the entire arm were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yang Zun was extremely excited, and the smile on his face could not be suppressed. It actually works. This healing speed is too exaggerated, he said in great surprise. The scene in front of him could be called a miracle to him. Then, Lu Chuan began to burn the rest of Yang Menghuan's body with flames. When Lu Chuan put his hand on Yang Menghuan's chest, Yang Menghuan turned her head to the side. Her cheeks were a little red. I don't know if it was caused by the high temperature of the flame. For a little girl who had never experienced sex, it was the first time for her to be so close to a strange man. Soon, Lu Chuan's palm swept over Yang Menghuan's body, restoring her entire body to its original state. Her skin became delicate and white again, as if the previous ulcer did not exist at all. Yang Menghuan sat up, stroking her forearm with both hands, feeling the smooth skin, and her eyes were filled with tears. Yang Zhu, who was standing aside, was even more tearful. He felt that he had witnessed a miracle. He had long been desperate and thought that his daughter's strange disease would never be cured. Unexpectedly, one day, his daughter's strange disease was cured. He couldn't believe it, just like a dream. All is well, all is well. He looked at Yang Menghuan excitedly, and his heart was extremely excited. Then he looked at Lu Chuan, his gratitude overflowing with words. Lu Chuan, I really don't know how to say it. Any language becomes pale at this moment. Anyway, you are my daughter's lifesaver. In the future in this flower city, if you encounter any trouble, you can come to me. I will do my best to help you. Swear by my position as the city lord. He said very seriously, not joking at all. Lu Chuan just nodded slightly, looked at Yang Menghuan, and asked, can you take out the fairy grass now? I really need it. No problem, I'll send someone back to the mansion to get it, but I'm curious, what do you need it for? Lu Chuan continued, I'm from the Hua family. The spiritual power of the spiritual tree in their family is exhausted. It may be some other reason that causes the spiritual tree to no longer release spiritual energy. So, I'm here to help them revive the family spiritual tree. This is a big deal, enough to affect the entire Hua Cheng. In this case, then hurry up and get the fairy grass. Don't waste time. Then, the red gauze was opened, and Yang Menghuan stood up and reappeared in front of everyone. In the audience, everyone was shocked when they saw Yang Menghuan. Wow, she's recovered. She doesn't look sick at all. She looks so healthy. This man named Lu Chuan is so amazing. He cured such a difficult disease. It's outrageous. So many people can't solve the problem, but he solved it alone, and it's so easy. Now he can walk sideways in Huacheng in the future. With Yang City Lord as the biggest backer, no one in Huacheng dares to provoke him. However, even without the protection of the City Lord, I'm afraid no one dares to provoke him in Huacheng. After seeing Yang Menghuan's perfect appearance now, everyone couldn't help but marvel at it. Lu Chuan's ability is simply too outrageous. He can repair such a physical injury so thoroughly, it's simply terrible. At this time, Yang Zun has sent people to rush to the City Lord's mansion to bring the fairy grass as soon as possible. Everyone, this little episode today did not satisfy you. It's a pity. I just wanted to hold a simple dance party. It's really because I'm eager to save my daughter that I beg you so much. Now, Mr. Lu has cured my daughter's skin disease, eliminated the evil spirit, and saved her life. I can't repay such a great kindness in my lifetime. Mr. Lu, thank you very much for your help. He bowed deeply to Lu Chuan. Then, everyone off the court applauded Lu Chuan. At this moment, in the eyes of everyone, Lu Chuan has become a big boss. If you can get to know such a capable person, if you encounter the same trouble in the future, won't there be a solution? Otherwise, it would be too uncomfortable to be helpless like Yang Zun and just stare blankly. For a while, everyone off the court was eager to move, and they all wanted to go on stage to get to know Lu Chuan. Zanshai and Ayu sat in the audience, looking at Lu Chuan's figure, and felt horrified. He didn't expect Lu Chuan to have such a skill. Even though Yang Menghuan was suffering from a serious illness, he was still perfectly cured. It was really outrageous. He suddenly became more curious about Lu Chuan. He always felt that Lu Chuan was very extraordinary. In the audience, Hua Tao was extremely excited. He couldn't suppress the smile on his face. He looked at Lu Chuan with a look of relief. That's great. The last material has been obtained. The family spirit tree can finally be saved. After waiting for a while, the servant of the Yang family came over, quickly came to the stage, and presented the mahogany box in his hands with both hands. Lord City Lord, I have brought back the immortal grass. Please have a look. Yang Zun took the mahogany box, opened it and took a look, then nodded slightly. Not bad. The speed is not bad. Then he turned his head to look at Lu Chuan and said, this is the immortal grass. I give it to you as a thank you. Lu Chuan quickly took the mahogany box, couldn't help but smiled and said, this is the purpose of my trip. Now that the purpose is achieved, I have to leave first. After that, he looked at Hua Tao in the audience and said, Uncle Hua, let's go back. Hua Tao stood up in an instant and said excitedly, okay, let's go back now. Don't stay for a moment longer. Just as Lu Chuan was about to leave, Yang Menghuan stopped him. Benefactor, I want to say something to you. Chapter 606, Spirit Tree Revival. Lu Chuan looked back at Yang Menghuan and asked, if you have anything else to say, please say it quickly. He was a little anxious and just wanted to go back as soon as possible. Yang Menghuan lowered her head slightly, shyly, and hesitated for a moment, not knowing how to start. She took a deep breath and said, I'm really grateful to my benefactor for saving my life, and my benefactor is handsome. If you don't mind, I want to be your wife. She raised her head and looked at Lu Chuan very seriously, not at all joking. Yang Zun stood aside and did not stop him at all. Instead, he looked at Lu Chuan expectantly. He also wanted Lu Chuan to agree. On the contrary, everyone in the audience was in an uproar and became agitated. Did I hear it right? Yang Menghuan, she actually said she wanted to marry Lu Chuan. Yang Menghuan actually has a day when she takes the initiative to express her love. How rare. Oh my god, why isn't that person me? I'm so envious. Whether he agrees or not, if he doesn't agree to let me come, I can't wait. Forget it. She's young and handsome, and you're an uncle. How could she possibly like you? If I don't agree, it would be unjust. Yang Menghuan's beauty is hard to find anyone who can compare with her in the surrounding cities. Everyone in the audience cast envious eyes at Lu Chuan. With such a precious opportunity, they wished they could make the decision for Lu Chuan themselves. However, facing Yang Menghuan's affectionate eyes, Lu Chuan just sighed helplessly. Sorry, I don't have this idea, and I won't stay in Huacheng for long. I have things to do. Hearing this, Yang Menghuan's eyes were covered with a layer of grey mist. Yang Zun sighed regretfully. It's okay, go do what you have to do. She may just be in a spur of the moment. Don't worry about her. Lu Chuan nodded slightly, then turned back to look at Hua Tao and said, let's go back. Okay. Hua Tao was very excited to leave Wanhua Garden with Lu Chuan. After seeing Lu Chuan leave, Yang Menghuan looked sad and aggrieved, looking more uncomfortable than a broken heart. Everyone in the audience shook their heads and sighed. Lu Chuan was too much. He didn't want such a beautiful wife. What kind of wife did he want? Yang Menghuan looked at Yang Zun stubbornly and said, Dad, I will marry him. If he doesn't marry me, I will be alone for the rest of my life. Yang Zun covered his forehead helplessly, shook his head and sighed. Everyone, the dance is over here. Today's dance ended with a perfect ending. Thank you all for your support. Yang Zun bowed deeply to everyone. At this time, Lu Chuan and Hua Tao had already rushed back to the Hua mansion. As soon as he returned to the Hua mansion, Hua Tao called several core figures in the family over. At the same time, he called his mother, Hua Chunkin, over. The old woman came over with the help of the maid. She took away all the materials and started making props. The next thing I'm going to make is called the spiritual branch, which can connect to all kinds of spiritual objects in the world. Of course, it also includes the human body itself. As long as you have this magic weapon, you can connect to various spiritual plants and absorb the spiritual energy from them. Once I'm done, I can start to revive the spiritual tree. Wait for me for a moment. She walked towards her room, and the others stood at the door waiting. Hua Tao came to Lu Chuan's side and whispered, it would be embarrassing if Gu Xiaorao knew about Yang Menghuan's matter just now, but don't worry, I will keep it a secret. Lu Chuan smiled helplessly. It doesn't matter if she knows, she is not a stingy person. Hua Tao nodded slightly. That's right, it's true. Several core elders of the Hua family were anxiously standing at the door, waiting for Hua Chunkin to open the door. After waiting for about 2 hours, the door was slowly pushed open. The old woman Hua Chunkin walked out slowly. She raised her right hand and took out a short stick. There was a white flower on each end of the short stick, and the long pole in the middle was a spiritual bamboo. The overall shape looked exquisite and beautiful, and it felt like a fairy treasure. This is the spiritual branch. Next, please follow me to the garden. Surrounded by the crowd, she leaned on a cane and slowly walked towards the back garden. Soon, they came to the garden. Under the moonlight in the middle of the night, all the flowers seemed to be withered. Obviously, without the nourishment of the spiritual tree, so many spiritual plants gathered here, and they simply could not absorb enough spiritual energy. Therefore, most of the spiritual plants were barely holding on, and many spiritual plants had died in large numbers, and could not be saved at all. If the spiritual tree is not saved, all these large areas of spiritual plants will die, and none will be left. At this time, Hua Chunkin came to the front of the spiritual tree, and she inserted one end of the spiritual branch into a branch of the spiritual tree. Then, she turned her head and looked at Lu Chuan. Come on, benefactor, take out the branch of the sacred tree, and we can witness the miracle of the spiritual tree's revival. Lu Chuan stepped forward, took out the black box from his arms, opened the box, and took out the branch of the sacred tree from it. Then, he placed the branch of the sacred tree on one end of the spiritual branch. Then, a stream of light connected to the branch of the sacred tree, and in an instant, a majestic spiritual energy was released. Hua Tao, who was standing next to him, couldn't help but take a few steps back, frightened by this amazing spiritual energy. Such a majestic spiritual energy, it's really the first time I've seen it. Is this the branch of the sacred tree? It's really not an ordinary thing. Hua Tao exclaimed. Hua Chunkin just smiled faintly. This is only a small part of the gap. If all the spiritual energy of the branches of the sacred tree is released, we will not be able to absorb it all, and we will all explode and die. So do you understand? This small branch alone has such a powerful spiritual energy. The original body of the world's origin sacred tree contains such amazing spiritual energy. I'm afraid no one can imagine it. Hearing this, Hua Tao couldn't help but take a deep breath and felt extremely shocked. The rest of the Hua family also had solemn expressions. At this time, the huge spiritual tree in front of them officially began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. The originally withered and yellow leaves all became green, just like the tender leaves that just grew in spring. Those dry tree trunks also became full and plump, and the spiritual energy flowed through the veins of the trunks, which could be seen clearly. At this moment, Hua Tao suddenly became nervous and said hurriedly, "This is a great opportunity. While the spiritual energy is being released, let's meditate and practice. Maybe with this opportunity, we can achieve a breakthrough." After Hua Tao finished speaking, the other elders all became serious and quickly chose a suitable place to meditate. Gu Xiaosang walked to Gu Xiaorao and said excitedly, "We are about to break through to the martial king realm. With this opportunity, we will definitely be able to achieve a breakthrough." Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly. "That's right. Meditate quickly. This kind of opportunity is rare." Chapter 607. Spiritual Energy Overflow. In the center of the vast sea of flowers, the huge spiritual tree is recovering rapidly. The dry branches and yellow leaves are all rejuvenating and becoming green. It can be seen that above the crown of the spiritual tree, green streams of light are constantly rotating. Everyone standing in the flower field felt the extremely abundant spiritual energy at this moment. After feeling this spiritual energy, everyone felt refreshed and comfortable. Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang did not hesitate and cherished this opportunity very much. They sat in meditation in the flower field on the spot, absorbing the amazing spiritual energy emitted by the spiritual tree. Not only their sisters, but the rest of the Hua family also followed suit, sitting cross-legged and began to absorb the spiritual energy. At this time, Hua Chunkin walked towards Lu Chuan. "Young man, thank you very much for your help to the Hua family. You have made an indispensable contribution to our family's restoration of its former glory. Please accept my greetings." As he said this, the old man actually bent down and knelt towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan hurriedly stepped forward to stop her. "No need. I also want to thank you for helping me find a way to absorb the branches of the sacred tree. Besides, you are the elder. I can't afford it." Hua Chunkin showed a kind smile on her face. What a good young man. It would be great if he could stay in our Hua family. "Okay. Take this opportunity to absorb the spiritual energy. Maybe it can help you directly complete the breakthrough." Lu Chuan nodded slightly and then asked, "How long will this process last?" "The time it takes for the spiritual tree to revive. This depends on the situation. If there is no overflow of spiritual energy, it proves that the spiritual tree has been revived and will no longer absorb spiritual energy from the branches. At that time, the spiritual energy overflowing around will be much weaker. Then you can take the branches of the sacred tree away, including the spiritual branch. With this prop, you can absorb spiritual energy from the branches of the sacred tree in the future." Lu Chuan asked again, "If I use the spiritual branch to absorb the branches of the sacred tree, will the absorption speed be the same as the spiritual tree?" Hua Chunkin shook her head slightly. "How is that possible? People have different physiques and different absorption speeds. Your absorption speed will be based on your own cultivation realm and the limit you can bear. In short, your speed will be quite amazing. Many practitioners will go to the wild to find caves and blessed places, find those places with abundant natural spiritual energy, and practice there. The purpose is nothing more than to reach the limit of their own spiritual energy absorption speed. So, in the future, when you can absorb the spiritual energy of branches, it is equivalent to being in that rare cave and blessed place anytime and anywhere, with a constant supply of spiritual energy." She raised her hand and patted Lu Chuan on the shoulder. "Your growth rate is expected to be much faster in the future, young man. Some people may take several years to break through a realm, but you may be able to do it in a few months or even shorter." She smiled with relief. "In the future, I'm afraid there will be another supreme strongman in this Kunlun domain." She sighed and laughed, and then slowly left here. She was already old and weak, and her ability to absorb spiritual energy was quite weak, so she didn't join in the fun with the young juniors. Looking at her back, Lu Chuan was also very grateful. From now on, this branch will no longer be a useless thing when it is placed here. Lu Chuan is currently in the 8th level of the nascent soul realm, and he may not be far from breaking through to the peak of the 9th level of the nascent soul realm. If he can break through the nascent soul realm and rush straight to the spiritual severing realm, Perhaps in the Kunlun domain, even the martial saint realm will find it difficult to be his opponent. Lu Chuan glanced around. The vast sea of flowers that were all about to wither before were now full again. The flowers were extremely gorgeous, and under the reflection of the moonlight, the beauty was intoxicating. Originally, the death of all the flowers in this large field of flowers was already a major blow to the Hua family. Now that all of them have been rescued and revived, there is no doubt that the entire Hua family is extremely excited. The revived spirit tree swayed in the wind, and the leaves made a rustling sound, which sounded very pleasant. The overflow of spiritual energy not only affected the entire Hua family mansion, but also covered the entire Hua Cheng. In the city lord's mansion, Yang Zun was about to wash his feet and go to sleep, but he was shocked in the side room, and his eyes suddenly lit up. What's the matter with this inexplicable spiritual energy? He murmured to himself in surprise. But the next moment, he suddenly realized. The Hua family's spiritual tree is probably revived at this moment. This Hua family is really lucky. I thought they would gradually decline in the future, but I didn't expect it. He sighed and hurriedly sat on the bed, meditated and began to practice. Not only him, but also Yang Menghun, after feeling the abundance of spiritual energy, also hurriedly began to enter the state of practice. Zhan Shai and Yu, who lived in the restaurant, and his apprentice, including countless warriors in the entire Hua Cheng who embarked on the path of practice, all seized the opportunity to enter the state of practice. Such an excellent state of practice, they could not let it go easily. For a time, almost half of the people in the city were affected by the revival of the spiritual tree and began to practice hard. Until midnight, the huge spiritual tree in the flower field in the backyard of the Hua family mansion stopped swaying, and the spiritual energy emitted by the spiritual tree finally stopped. Gu Xiaorao suddenly opened her eyes and said happily, I have broken through to the martial king realm. Swish. Around her, a strong momentum rushed all around, and the aura of the strong in the martial king realm instantly enveloped her whole body. Not only her, but also Gu Xiaorao. She opened her eyes. Her eyes were as sharp as a sword, and she said in a concentrated voice, the martial king realm finally broke through. She also became serious at this moment. This realm breakthrough made both of them extremely excited. From the saint realm to the martial king realm, this is not an easy process. If ordinary people want to break through the bottleneck and reach the martial king realm, unless the family is financially strong and can afford to buy elixirs for nourishment. Otherwise, it is afraid that it will take 3 to 5 years, or even longer, to break through. Only large aristocratic families can allow young juniors to break through to the martial king realm early. As for the higher martial emperor realm, many warriors practice for a lifetime, and may not be able to break through to the martial emperor realm until the end of their lives. This is still too far for the two. Gu Xiaosang and Gu Xiaorao hugged each other, both excited to tears. Then, Lu Chuan walked towards the two and asked, how do you feel? The strength of this martial king realm is very extraordinary. Gu Xiaorao clenched her fist and said excitedly, I feel that the strength of my whole body has increased several times. When I use swordsmanship in the future, my sword speed and power will be several times sharper. The strength of the martial king realm is also considered outstanding in this flower city. If I return to Xiaoyao city, my strength will be considered top level strength, and few people in the city can match me. Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan with gentle eyes. This branch on your body has really helped a lot of people. Chapter 608, Martial King Realm. Everyone in the Hua family stood up and walked towards Lu Chuan. Everyone was grateful and kept thanking Lu Chuan. For the Hua family, saving the spirit tree is undoubtedly saving everyone in their family. So for them, Lu Chuan is undoubtedly the savior of the family. This favor, the Hua family will never repay it. Several elders came up to thank Lu Chuan one after another, and Lu Chuan just smiled awkwardly. He came here, firstly to help the Hua family revive the spirit tree, and secondly to find a way to safely absorb the spiritual energy from the branches of the sacred tree. Now it seems that both have been achieved. Lu Chuan walked to the spirit tree and took down the spiritual branch. Then, Lu Chuan held the spiritual branch and saw that the branches of the sacred tree were entangled by 3 green streamers at one end of the spiritual branch and suspended in the air. At the other end, it will release abundant spiritual energy, and Lu Chuan can directly choose to absorb the spiritual energy and continuously strengthen himself. But it's late tonight, so it's better to go to sleep first. So Lu Chuan put away the branches of the sacred tree and put them in his arms. The spiritual branch was hung horizontally at the waist. After the spiritual branch was put away, the blooming flowers tightened up and turned into slender buds, completely turning into a long stick. The crowd gradually dispersed, and Lu Chuan also left the flower field with Gu Xiaorao. On the way back, Hua Qianwu came to Lu Chuan's side and said with a smile, "Thank you very much. If it weren't for your generous help, our Hua family would really be finished." This matter is of great significance to their Hua family, so Hua Qianwu emphasized it many times. Lu Chuan's ears were a little calloused after listening to it. "Thank you too for helping me find a way to absorb spiritual energy," Lu Chuan said with some surprise. "I didn't expect that this short branch contained such amazing spiritual energy, as if it was endless. It's really scary. I don't know what kind of existence this world's origin tree is. Just this short branch alone has aroused Lu Chuan's infinite reverie. If one day he can really meet the real God tree, it will probably be more magnificent and more magnificent than this spiritual tree." This time, Lu Chuan lived in the most upscale guest room of the Hua family. The decoration inside was extremely luxurious, and there were 4 maids to take care of his daily life. It was like an emperor's enjoyment. When he went to bed at night, Lu Chuan slept much more comfortably. However, Lu Chuan dared not sleep too deeply now. With such a treasure, he must worry about the thoughts of people with bad intentions. At least no one in the Hua family should have this courage, because they all knew their own strength. "I'm afraid that other forces are beginning to make a move and want to attack the branches of the sacred tree. Now that he has the spiritual branch with him, those people are afraid that they will become even crazier." The next morning, after Lu Chuan got up, breakfast was ready. He drank 2 mouthfuls of porridge casually and walked out of the yard. After absorbing the spiritual energy last night, Lu Chuan could feel that he was only a little away from breaking through to the 9th level of the nascent soul realm. Breaking through the bottleneck, he can reach the peak of the 9th level, and his whole body strength will be strengthened. But Lu Chuan is not in a hurry for the time being. At least in Huacheng, he has no opponents at present. In the yard, Gu Xiaorao got up early to practice swordplay, and Lu Chuan stood in the distance to admire her. This time, Gu Xiaorao's swordplay was perfect in terms of speed, strength, and the posture of the sword. The gap between the Saint realm and the Martial King realm was still quite astonishing. He could actually feel the aura of a king from this little beauty. "Gu Xiaorao, you started practicing so early." Lu Chuan walked over. "I want to feel the state of the Martial King realm. This state is so comfortable, as if the person and the sword are one. The moves that I couldn't use in the past can be perfectly used today," she said with a smile, and then put away her sword. "Is there anything big happening in Huacheng today?" Lu Chuan asked. "It's nothing. Many people are talking about the spiritual energy overflowing last night. By the way, the Hua family is going to hold a celebration ceremony to celebrate the revival of the spirit tree. It is said that they want Hua Qianwu to have a grand lantern festival, the kind that will be a carnival for the whole city." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. They really need to hold such a ceremony, not only to celebrate the revival of the spirit tree, but also to inform the whole city that the Hua family is now fully resurrected, and anyone who wants to take advantage of them can give up the idea. By the way, there will be a warrior selection in Huacheng today. It will be jointly organized by people sent by several major martial arts families in Xianshu City. If they select the right one, they will recruit him and bring him back to Xianshu City. Are you interested in this? Lu Chuan shrugged. How could I be interested in this? But it would be nice to go and take a look. By the way, what should we do next? Gu Xiaorao asked. Lu Chuan held his chin and thought for a moment. The next step is to go to Xianshu City. The city there is very large, and I might meet people from the Lu family again. But this is exactly what I want. Through these battles, the Lu family should know my strength. From now on, they should not rashly send people to trouble me. In that case, I will take the initiative. At this time, Hua Qianwu came to the yard, and Gu Xiaosang came over with her. The lantern festival is ready. There will be a night of revelry tonight, and the whole city will celebrate the revival of our family's spirit tree. You guys come and join us." Luchuan nodded with a smile. "No problem, I will definitely support you in the evening." Then, Guzayata-sang ran to Guzayadora and said excitedly, "Sister, the martial arts selection will be held in the afternoon, let's go and participate. Why should we join in the fun?" Guzayata-sang said excitedly, "I finally broke through to the Martial King realm. I want to test my strength. What do you think would happen if one of us won the first place?" Guzayadora shrugged disapprovingly. "Do you want to stay in Shianshu City and join a martial arts school in the future?" Of course not. I want to follow Luchuan until I defeat the Lu family." She clenched her fists and said seriously, "Well, then let's go and participate. Just treat it as a chance to exchange ideas and exercise our strength." Guzayadora hesitated for a moment but still agreed. "By the way, do they have any registration requirements?" "Of course they do. Young people who are no older than 23 years old can do it." Guzayadora nodded slightly. "Then both of us meet the requirements. In that case, let's sign up." She turned her head to look at Luchuan and asked, "Zio-sang and I are going to compete in a martial arts competition. Will you come too?" "No problem. I'll go and see how effective your two Martial King realm strengths are." Huakai and Wu shrugged helplessly. "Sorry, I have to prepare for the dance show tonight, so I can't go with you three." "No problem." Chapter 609 Warrior Selection. Guzayadora and Guzayata-sang walked out of the Hua family mansion and walked along the street towards the square of Huacheng. The largest Huacheng square was crowded with people at this moment. The location of the martial arts selection was here. The registration office was already crowded with people, and people were signing up one after another. Everyone wanted to participate in this martial arts selection. They didn't want to miss this precious opportunity. However, before they signed up, they needed a basic strength screening. That is to lift a stone. If a stone half the size of a person can be lifted with one hand, then they have the most basic registration qualification. But even so, many people were still screened out. Guzayadora and Guzayata-sang began to line up and prepare to start registering. Luchuan was waiting for them to complete the registration in the distance. The team kept moving forward and finally came to Guzayadora and Guzayata-sang. Name: Guzayadora. Strength: Martial King Realm. The person at the registration office looked up at Guzayadora, his eyes revealing full distrust. However, he naturally would not waste time to verify it, because there were too many people lying here. He continued, "Go to the side and lift the stone with one hand. If you can do it, you will be considered to have successfully registered." Guzayadora walked to the side, picked up the stone with both hands, and then supported it with her right hand. Then, she exerted all her strength to lift the stone up and directly lifted it above her head. She looked so relaxed that everyone around was amazed. A girl with such a beautiful appearance must be very strong. However, this is still too common in Kunlun domain. If it were in the secular world, a girl who could lift such a heavy object would have become a hit on the internet long ago. Okay, next. Then, Guzayata-sang stepped forward. The person at the registration office looked at Guzayata-sang and frowned immediately. Guzayata-sang looked cute, with a slightly silly smile on her face. She looked like an innocent little girl. He immediately became impatient. It was obvious that she was here to join in the fun. Name: Guzayata-sang. Who is that person to you? My sister. Strength: Martial King. He looked up at Guzayata-sang and asked in disbelief, "You are also in the Martial King? Is there a problem?" She asked in confusion. "Don't lie to me. I'm not lying to you. I'm really in the Martial King. Forget it. There are many people lying and bragging about themselves here. I won't bother with you. Go take the test." Guzayata-sang slammed the table angrily and shouted, "What do you mean? I said I didn't lie." Seeing her lose her temper, the staff was immediately frightened, but they didn't know what to say. At this time, the people around hurriedly persuaded him, "Don't be stubborn. You are now saying that you are in the Martial King realm. Sooner or later, you will be exposed when you go on stage. Come honestly." "That's right. The Martial King realm is very rare. A warrior with a little talent has to wait until he is about 30 years old to break through the Martial King realm. How can ordinary people have such a possibility?" Just now your sister was in the Martial King realm. Everyone can choose to believe it, but you are also in the Martial King realm. What? Does your Gu family mass produce Martial King realm? Gu Xiaosang puffed his mouth angrily, walked to the side, raised the boulder with both hands, and smashed it to the side without hesitation. Bang! A big hole was smashed in the floor next to it, and the shock sound scared everyone around. Now you know what my strength is, right? In an instant, everyone around was scared. And Gu Xiaosang also successfully signed up. After leaving the registration office, Gu Xiaorao couldn't help but persuade. Why are you angry with them? They will know your strength when you go on stage. I don't want to be angry with them. The selection will start later, and I must rush to the first place. Gu Xiaorao said with a smile. And me, it's hard to say who will be the first between us. I won't lose to you. Gu Xiaosang said confidently. As the registration gradually ended, the competition stage was built, and the selection of warriors officially began. The 3 leading masters walked onto the competition stage and faced everyone. Zhan Xianyu stood in the center position, and he was also the first to speak. Now, the selection of warriors in Xianxu City will officially begin. The top 100 warriors will be selected, and go to Xianxu City for further training. The top 10 warriors will join our Zhen Family Martial Arts Hall, and become a warrior of our Zhen family. The competition is divided into 2 parts. First, they will take turns to fight, and complete the ranking. Then they will take turns to fight with our 3 disciples. We will serve as referees to score, and the final ranking will be based on the final score. The first is to randomly divide them into groups and fight 2 by 2. We have already prepared for this. There are more than 400 people participating in the warrior selection this time, divided into 200 groups to fight. In the first round of fighting, the top 100 will be quickly divided, and then they will fight with our 3 disciples. After Zhen Xianyu finished speaking, he looked at the 2 people next to him and introduced. This is the head of the Liang family in Xianxu City, Liang Wanhu. He is good at boxing. This is the head of the Lin family in Xianxu City, Lin Xianhei. He is good at spearmanship. I'm a master of the Zhen family in Xianxu City. I have dozens of disciples under my command, all of whom are quite powerful. Next, let's start the competition. Then, he read out the warriors who were going to fight in the first round. The 3 of them, including Lu Chuan, just stood in the crowd waiting. I'm so nervous. I don't know when it will be our turn. Gu Xiaosang said excitedly. Don't be nervous. It's just 2 rounds of competition. It's still very simple. Gu Xiaosang nodded slightly. Well, be prepared. I must take first place. 10 people and 5 groups went on stage in 1 round to start the competition. It was just a simple exchange, and the fight was not intense, but when it came to the decision of victory or defeat, they would still rush and throw heavy punches. Soon, the first round was over. The results were given on the spot, and who would advance, and who would be eliminated were given directly. Many warriors trained for a year just for this opportunity, and it was easy for them to cry after being eliminated. The second and third rounds began one after another. The competition was very fast, and there were not many opportunities. If you lost once, you would leave immediately, and wait for a new opportunity next year. Soon, it was the turn of the group assigned by Gu Xiaorao. When Gu Xiaorao's name was read on the list, she took a deep breath, and walked towards the competition stage. When everyone saw a thin female figure walking out, they couldn't help but sweat for her. Her opponent was a strong man weighing more than 200 pounds. Such a duel was even a little unbearable to watch. Zhan Xianyu looked at the stage. He didn't recognize Gu Xiaorao at first, and he didn't know that this was Lu Chuan's fiancé. So, he didn't say much, and said directly, begin the competition. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 610, Strong Battle. The first round of competition is a one-on-one competition among the martial artists who participated in the selection. As long as you complete the first round of competition and enter the second round, you will take turns to fight with the 3 martial arts masters' apprentices. The final ranking will be based on the performance of the competition. The scale of this martial arts selection is not large, but the requirements are not low at all. At this time, Guzayadorao walked out of the crowd and walked towards the competition stage. In the eyes of everyone, Guzayadorao was thin and holding a sword, looking fragile. It didn't look like she had any fighting power at all. Unfortunately, the opponent was assigned to a strong man with a strong physique. He was very exaggerated in his muscles. He stood there and smiled proudly at Guzayadorao. "Beauty, I will be gentler later. It would be a pity if I accidentally beat you to death." He laughed, and Guzayadorao was so beautiful that he couldn't bear to punch her. Guzayadorao held the long sword, pointed at the opponent, and said, "I'm Guzayadorao, please teach me more. My name is Zuhu, I will show mercy, but you are really unlucky. You met me in the first round. Now you don't even have the chance to spar with the warriors of Shianshu City." He laughed and walked towards Guzayadorao. He clenched his fists in front of him and took a fighting stance. It was obvious that he was a boxer, but if he was unarmed, he would be at a disadvantage when he met someone holding a long sword. However, he was quite confident in his own strength, so he was not afraid of the slender sword in Guzayadorau's hand. Then, Zuhu took a heavy step and rushed towards Guzayadorao. With every step, the ground trembled a little. Such a fierce momentum directly made the surrounding audience feel a little timid. They were all very curious. Guzayadorao didn't look scared at all. She stood firmly in place and faced the enemy calmly. "Ha ha ha. You don't run away, but choose to fight me head on. You're just courting death." He clenched his fist and swung it at Guzayadorao. The fist was almost as big as Guzayadorau's head, and it looked very scary. Guzayadorao, who was in the audience, was immediately heartbroken. This opponent is too fierce. It feels like it will be difficult to beat him. She looked at Guzayadorao with some worry. Lu Chuan crossed his arms and said calmly, "This guy named Zuhu is only at the 6th level of the Saint Realm. How could he be Zayadorao's opponent? Muscles alone cannot make up for the gap in cultivation. There is a natural gap between the Martial King Realm and the Saint Realm, which ordinary people cannot cross at all." After hearing what Lu Chuan said, Guzayadorao was relieved. However, the other audiences did not know Guzayadorau's strength, and they were all nervous at the moment, and they didn't even dare to watch the next scene. But at the moment when Zuhu's fist was about to touch Guzayadorao, Guzayadorau's figure suddenly disappeared. The next moment, Guzayadorao quickly moved to Zuhu's side, and immediately swung out her long sword, slashing through Zuhu's armpit and ribs. Swish! A stream of blood spurted out and splashed all over the ground. Zuhu, in pain, quickly stepped back a few steps, half crouched on the ground with his hands covering his wound, frowning and looking at Guzayadorao with a look that no longer had the pride and arrogance just now. Guzayadorao stood in place, looking at Zuhu fiercely. "Your movements are too slow. You think you can hit me at this speed? Dream on." Zuhu stood up suddenly and clenched his fists again. "Just now, I was just careless, and you took advantage of the opportunity and actually launched a sneak attack. Now I will not relax and slack off. I will do my best to defeat you. If I fail to beat you, you will also be asking for trouble." He walked towards Guzayadorao angrily. Guzayadorao said coldly, "I didn't sneak attack you. I dodged your attack right under your nose and counter-attacked you. You are not as skilled as me, but you still want to slander me. It's ridiculous." Guzayadorau's words hurt Zuhu's heart and made him angry. With so many eyes watching, it would be too embarrassing for a big man like him to lose to a little girl. If he was eliminated here, he would have no face to continue to mix in Hua Cheng in the future. When he saw that his opponent was a little girl, he thought he was lucky and was promoted to the next round. But he didn't expect it to be a bit difficult. The next moment, Zuhu rushed towards Guzayadorao. This time, his speed was much faster than before. His steps were fierce, and his momentum was like a tiger. He rushed to Guzayadorao almost instantly. "Take my tiger punch." He clenched his fist and hit Guzayadorao. On the way of the fist, he could faintly hear a tiger roar. If ordinary people heard this voice, it would definitely have a shocking effect. However, for Guzayadorao, these were all false. She once again relied on her sharp body skills to quickly distance herself and leaped to Zuhu's side. Zuhu also learned his lesson and directly sideways and hit Guzayadorao with a sweeping punch. Guzayadorao didn't say anything and leaned back with her upper body, easily dodging Zuhu's punch. The whistling fist wind passed in front of her, making her hair stand on end. Guzayadorao did not hesitate and directly counterattacked without missing any opportunity. Swish. Guzayadorao thrust out her long sword and stabbed Zuhu's shoulder. Immediately, blood flowed down the sword. Feeling the pain, Zuhu retreated 5 or 6 steps and quickly raised his hand to cover the wound. He began to breathe heavily. He couldn't get any advantage after several rounds of fighting. What went wrong? Is it really a style restraint? The other party is more flexible than me, so she can dodge the attack repeatedly and fight back. But this is unrealistic. If the strength is similar, there should not be such a huge difference in speed. Could it be that the difference between him and her is a difference in hard power? He couldn't believe it. He was a 6th grade saint at a young age. He was definitely the best among young people. There were not many geniuses in the whole Huacheng who could be at the same level as him. But facing this girl of the same age in front of him, the difference in strength was too big. Guzayadorao stood in place with a sword and did not pursue the victory for the time being. If she chased after him rashly, she might be caught. Now you should realize that your strength is much worse than mine. Bullshit, you are just a sly rat. What's the big deal if you are bitten by a rat twice? He couldn't stand such humiliation. He clenched his fists again and prepared to continue fighting. After hearing his words, Guzayadorao felt unhappy. This bastard was average in strength, but he was very tough. In that case, let's end the fight cleanly. I don't want to waste too much time on you. Chapter 611 Convinced. Guzayadorao didn't want to waste too much time with the guy in front of her. Since there was such a huge gap in strength, there was no need to waste too much time on him. Without saying a word, she rushed towards Zuhu with a long sword in hand. Seeing Guzayadorao taking the initiative, Zuhu was immediately furious. You dare to take the initiative to attack me? You can only run away. In his eyes, he was at a disadvantage because of sneak attacks twice, but if he fought head on, he would not be weak at all. So, he laughed triumphantly again. Haha, you actually dare to rush up and take the initiative to attack me. You are too brave. If I catch you, you will never escape from my clutches. He was extremely confident in his own strength. As long as he could control Guzayadaorao's weak body with both hands, he would win. The audience around him became worried for Guzayadorao. How dare she charge? She should have continued to fight back. She's already had 2 wounds. If she keeps fighting, she'll have a great chance of winning. She can't even sit still. Isn't it like she's going to die if she charges forward? It looks like she's still going to lose. The gap in strength is too big. It's not just the gap in strength, but also the gap in experience. Just as everyone was feeling sorry for her, Guzayadorao thrust out her long sword and stabbed towards Zuhu's abdomen. Seeing this, Zuhu raised his leg and kicked towards Guzayadorao. His leg was longer than his sword, so he could hit Guzayadorao earlier. However, Guzayadorao turned around and dodged Zuhu's kick. Instead, she stabbed out with a sharp sword, piercing Zuhu's abdomen. At this moment, Zuhu's face suddenly became ugly, his brows knitted, and he looked at Guzayadorao in great pain. Arsehole. He still didn't expect that Guzayadaorao's body was so flexible. He had been fighting until now, and he hadn't even touched her. How big is this gap in strength? At this moment, he finally understood. He was completely crushed from all sides, and had no power to fight back. The difference in strength was not as simple as 1 or 2 small realms. Zuhu knelt on one leg, blood constantly flowing from his abdomen, making his face gradually turn pale. He could only admit defeat and go to heal his wounds. He knelt on one leg and clasped his fists towards Guzayadorao. I lost. The winner is decided. You should be convinced now, right? I'm convinced. I have no power to fight back at all. This is purely a difference in strength. It's not that he had never fought against an opponent with a flexible body before, but as long as the difference in strength was not big, he still had a chance to catch the flaw. But in this duel, he didn't have any flaws to catch. The strength of both sides was completely not at the same level. So, Zuhu withdrew from the stage and Guzayadorao advanced to the next round. Everyone in the audience looked at Guzayadorao and suddenly started to discuss it in amazement. I really didn't expect that she actually won. Where did this Guzayadorao come from? She seems to be very powerful. She was completely suppressed. Zuhu didn't even touch her. She was suppressed so much that she was suffocating. Every punch she made hit the air. It was really hard to fight. Guzayadorao returned to Lu Chuan's side and breathed a sigh of relief. This feels really good. I didn't expect the strength of the king of martial arts to be so wonderful. Just now on the competition stage, I could see clearly what my opponent was going to do at every step. I have never predicted a battle so clearly. This feeling is really wonderful. Guzayadorao sighed, and Guzayadasang began to get excited. I can't wait any longer. When can I go on stage to compete? She couldn't hold back her excitement and wanted to go on stage to compete right now. Don't worry. It should be your turn soon. Watch others compete first. Guzayadorao comforted. At this time, Lu Chuan continued, but the next round may be difficult. The disciples of the three martial artists should all be at the level of martial kings, and they grew up in Xianshu City, so they must have learned a lot of advanced martial arts. Hearing this, Guzayadorao nodded slightly and said, yes, I'm afraid it won't be so easy in the second round, but the second round is just a test of strength. Winning or losing is not important. Only by making it into the top 10 can you have the opportunity to enter the Zhen family's martial arts hall. The Zhen family is really well known. They recruit 10 people from Huacheng every year, and they are all top talents. Lu Chuan sighed. If the two of us make it into the top 10, will we join the Zhen family martial arts hall? Guzayadasang looked at Guzayadorao and asked curiously. Guzayadorao thought for a while, shook her head and said, of course not. Are we going to stay in Xianshu City in the future? That's right. Then, several more rounds of duels were held. Soon, it was Guzayadasang's turn. The next contestants to compete on stage are Zhao Changying and Guzayadasang. As soon as these words came out, the audience began to talk. Guzayadasang? Didn't she go on stage once just now? Why is it her again? You are confused. That one is Guzayadorao. This one is Guzayadasang. They are not the same person. Are these two from the same family? I guess so. Maybe they are sisters. Oh my god. Sisters from the same school. So their strength should not be bad, right? Maybe, after all, the one called Guzayadorao is very strong. Guzayadasang walked out of the crowd. She was wearing a slim martial arts uniform, pink bloomers on the lower body, and a bun, which made her look quite cute. She was shorter than Guzayadorao, and with her childish face, others thought that a little girl from someone's family was lost and ran here. This is too young, right? Is she 18 years old? She doesn't look very capable. Maybe we are overthinking it. Her sister should be the only one who's really strong. From her looks, you can tell she doesn't have much combat power. She probably saw her sister coming to participate in the competition and came to join in the fun. This is too dangerous. Why don't you ask her to cancel it? What if she gets hurt? My opponent Zhao Changying probably doesn't dare to do it. If she gets hurt and gets blackmailed, she's done for. In the eyes of the audience, Guzayadasang is just a little girl who comes to join in the fun. She has almost no combat power. However, after hearing this, Guzayadasang was immediately furious. What are you talking about? You look down on me, don't you? Just because I look harmless, I don't think I have no strength. She rolled up her sleeves and glared at Zhao Changying fiercely. You wait for your defeat. The fierce look made Zhao Changying tremble all over and feel very uncomfortable. Little sister, why are you so angry? I'm not letting you go. Chapter 612 The Strongest Sisters. Zhao Changying's words made Guzayadasang even angrier. Do I need you to give in? See how I beat you. Without saying anything, she threw down the long sword in her hand, clenched her fists, and walked towards Zhao Changying. Zhao Changying was shocked when he saw this. What are you doing? You'd better take your weapon. I should fight you with my bare hands. You are only a 4th grade saint. Do I need to take a sword to fight you? That's too much of a bully for you. Seeing Guzayadasang's arrogant words, he also became angry. He threw down his weapon and walked towards Guzayana-san with his fists clenched. "You are so arrogant. Then I will teach you a lesson today and let you know who is the stronger one." Without saying anything, he rushed towards Guzayana-san. Guzayana-san did not flinch either and went straight to him. Both of them had very bad tempers. They started fighting without saying a word, catching the audience off guard. However, when Zhao Changying rushed to Guzayana-san, he was about to swing his left fist at Guzayana-san. But the next moment, Guzayana-san took the lead and her speed was even more fierce and fast. Her right hand turned into a residual image, like a small cannonball, and hit Zhao Changying's abdomen. Bang! Exclamation mark. After a muffled sound, Zhao Changying flew backwards. With a plop, Zhao Changying fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, his mind was confused. What just happened? Why did he lie down? Why was the opponent so fast that he didn't even react? Moreover, this power was too much. A little girl could actually burst out such a powerful force. What level is this strength? He felt extremely horrified in his heart, and his stomach was churning, making him extremely uncomfortable. He stood up with difficulty, and when he looked at Guzayana-san, he suddenly showed timidity. The punch just now made him realize the reality. The gap in strength seemed a bit big. The audience around were all a little surprised by the short fight just now. They didn't expect that Guzayana-san was as fierce as her sister and could not fight back. At this time, Zhao Changying was only hit by one punch, but he seemed to have lost his fighting spirit and didn't even want to continue fighting. Guzayana-san walked towards him with a fist. "Keep coming. Let's see who is afraid of who." "No. Let's stop here." He quickly raised his hand and admitted defeat with a painful face. Just one punch made him realize the reality. This was a gap in hard strength, which he could not make up for at all. If he didn't admit defeat, he could only wait to be beaten. Zhao Changying left the stage in embarrassment, and Guzayana-san picked up his weapon and walked off the arena. For a while, the eyes of the whole audience were focused on the two sisters of the Gu family. The strength of both of them was a bit exaggerated. They might be the biggest dark horses of this year. It's really not satisfying. I only threw one punch. I haven't felt my strength well yet. She sighed with a little regret. If you continue to fight, you will seriously injure your opponent. But he knows the situation. He backs off when he knows he is not his opponent. He is not like Zuhu, who is very stubborn. Guzayao said with a smile. Lu Chuan looked at the two of them with great satisfaction. It's not easy to break through the Martial King realm, but it will be much easier in the future. We will absorb the spiritual energy from the branches together, and our cultivation speed will be very fast. Guzayana-san was extremely excited. Breaking through to the Martial King realm would bring such a huge change. She couldn't wait to break through all the way up. Becoming a top-level strongman is the dream of every warrior. At this time, the first round of the competition gradually ended, and the list of the top 100 was summarized. The next is the second round of the competition. From now on, they will compete with the apprentices of 3 martial artists. The 3 martial artists are equivalent to judges, and will score their performance. Finally, the final ranking will be divided according to the scores. This is the most important part. If they don't perform well enough, they will still be at risk of being eliminated. They all have to try their best to get into the top 10 and join the Shianshu Cities and Family Martial Arts Hall. Then, the first round of competition began. One of Liang Wanhu's apprentices stepped out and began to participate in the competition. In the second round, it was replaced by one of Lin Xianhei's apprentices, and in the third round, it was replaced by one of Zhen Xianyu's apprentices. Each of them brought 3 core disciples, so there was basically no problem with the rotation. Moreover, their disciples were all above the Martial King realm, so they were basically crushed when competing with these young people, and the amount of exercise was about the same as their usual warm-up exercises. Rounds of competitions went on quickly. Finally, Guzayao name appeared in the ears of the public again. This time, the whole audience paid attention and looked at Guzayao's figure very seriously. Through the first round of competition, they could see that the strength of this young man named Guzayao was quite terrifying. Not only her, but also her sister Guzayana-san was equally powerful. Guzayao slowly stepped onto the stage. Her opponent was Lin Qianhei's apprentice, Lin Guang. Lin Guang looked to be about 25 or 26 years old. He stood there holding a spear, wearing a green robe, staring at Gu Xiaorao with a sharp gaze. I saw your performance just now. You are indeed a strong warrior among this year's young warriors, but it's your bad luck to meet me. Next, please show your strength and try to cause damage to me, but you probably can't do it. Let's do this. Try to repel me as much as possible, he said confidently, as if he didn't think he would be injured by Gu Xiaorao. The reason was naturally very simple. In the previous rounds of the battle, he easily left the stage without any injuries, without any pressure at all. His strength was no longer on the same level as this group of warriors. Therefore, for Gu Xiaorao, her goal was to make her opponent embarrassed as much as possible, so that she could get a higher score. At this time, Gu Xiaorao held a long sword and walked towards Lin Guang. Then I won't be polite. Swish! Exclamation mark. This time, Gu Xiaorao used all her strength and rushed towards Lin Guang at the fastest speed. She tapped the ground with her toes, and almost in the blink of an eye, she came to Lin Guang's side. Seeing this, Lin Guang frowned. Gu Xiaorao's speed really surprised him. This speed was not ordinary. It was the speed limit that only the Martial King realm could show. Could it be that the woman in front of him was already in the Martial King realm? Lin Guang took a deep breath and quickly held the spear across his body to block. At this moment, he began to take it seriously. It seemed that the opponent's strength should not be underestimated. Chapter 613. No Martial Ethics. Lin Guang held a spear and Gu Xiaorao held a saber. If the two were to talk about weapons alone, there was no doubt that Lin Guang had the advantage. But this was not an ordinary exchange. Both warriors were real martial kings, and their own strength would make up for some of the gap in weapons. Although the spear had a strong advantage in length, it also seemed a bit bulky under Gu Xiaorao's light and swift figure. Gu Xiaorao rushed to Lin Guang and made several consecutive moves around him, which made Lin Guang nervous. Gu Xiaorao's speed was a little beyond his expectations, making him realize that the strength of this young warrior might be very strong. But even so, he still believed that he would definitely win. After all, they were the ones who came to select others. If their strength was not as good as their opponents, what qualifications did they have to select the other party? Lin Guang held the tail of the spear and swept it around. Swish! The powerful spear swept over, and Gu Xiaorao jumped up directly and avoided Lin Guang's attack. Then, she stepped forward quickly and took the lead in attacking Lin Guang before he could put away his spear in time. The two sides fought back and forth and fought again and again. This scene surprised everyone in the audience. In the previous rounds of competition, all the warriors who participated in the selection were beaten by these elite disciples. They were beaten black and blue within 3 or 5 minutes of going on stage. There were even many who were killed in seconds after only 1 or 2 moves. So everyone habitually believed that if the selected warriors faced elite warriors and were not beaten badly and seriously injured, it would be considered a good result. After all, the gap between them was quite large, and Gu Xiaorao's performance in front of her was evenly matched with her opponent Lin Guang, and it seemed that they were fighting back and forth. This was really a bit outrageous. For a while, the focus of the whole audience was on Gu Xiaorao, and everyone was carefully watching her every move. At this time, Lin Qianhei, who was on the judge's seat, looked ugly. The other martial arts master's disciples all performed amazingly, defeating their opponents in just a few moves. Why was it so difficult for him to fight? If Huan Huan's and Xianyu saw this, wouldn't it be a joke? This is too embarrassing. Lin Qianhei clenched his fists, his face a little gloomy. Another round ended. Lin Guang clenched his spear with both hands. His breathing became rapid, and his eyes looking at Gu Xiaorao also became solemn. He never thought that he would fight so hard, which was somewhat beyond his expectations. At this time, Lin Qianhei said, Lin Guang, don't show mercy. Just because the other party is a weak woman, use all your strength. Lin Guang turned around and saw the gloomy face of his master. His heart sank, and he began to get nervous. Obviously, his performance made the old man a little uncomfortable. Lin Guang frowned, and his eyes became fierce. He didn't show mercy at all just now. He really used all his strength. but the opponent was indeed very strong, making it very difficult for him to fight. But others would not understand him. They would only point fingers at him and rate him as the worst among the apprentices of several martial artists. Thinking of this, Lin Guang instantly became angry. As a talented martial artist in Xianshu City, how could he lose face here? I want you to face the reality. You are not my opponent. He did not dare to look at the questioning eyes of the people around him, rushed towards Gu Xiaorao, holding the spear tightly with both hands, and stabbed towards Gu Xiaorao's abdomen. Seeing this, Gu Xiaorao's eyes were stern, and she hurriedly retreated a few steps to avoid the opponent's fierce stab. Leaning on the railing at the edge of the arena, Gu Xiaorao frowned. She could feel that the Lin Guang in front of her was obviously not in the right state. He was actually angry, and his moves became fierce, as if he was going to seriously injure her. Gu Xiaorao's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. This simple competition seemed to have changed a little. She quickly dodged and avoided Lin Guang's fierce attack. Seeing that he had not yet injured his opponent, Lin Guang became even more furious. He wanted to prove himself. Ah! Lin Guang roared, his muscles bulging, and a fierce aura wrapped around him. Silver snakes dancing wildly. He thrust out his spear again, but this time, several silver white streams of light lingered on the spear body. At the moment of thrusting out the spear, several beams of light shot towards Gu Xiaorao. This guy was obviously crazy. It was just a sparring match, but he even released his martial arts. The audience exclaimed. This guy seemed to be furious. Is he crazy? He actually used all his martial arts in a competition. Is he going to kill his opponent? This was originally a competition between two people with unequal strength, but he actually did this. He seems to have been beaten to his head. Come and stop him. Martial artists, please move your seats. Stop this madman. It's such a pity if such a beautiful girl dies in the hands of this madman. On the judge's bench, the three martial artists sat firmly in their seats, and none of them had any intention of taking action. Zhan Xianyu and Huang Wan, who had no reason to take action. After all, that was Lin Xianhei's apprentice. If they rashly took action to teach someone else's apprentice a lesson, it would be like slapping the other person in the face. And Lin Xianhei sat firmly in his seat, motionless, and didn't seem to be upset at all. For him, the death of one or two people in this flower city was nothing. If she died, she died. So what if she was beautiful? There are countless beauties in the world, and this one is not bad. At this moment, the streams of light shot out, and Gu Xiaorao hurriedly resisted, raised her sword, and protected herself. Clang! Exclamation mark. These fierce blows hit the sword, and the huge force made Gu Xiaorao's hands tremble, and her face became ugly. However, she still neglected it, and one of the gunshots shot through Gu Xiaorao's shoulder, and blood immediately stained her overhead. Gu Xiaorao covered her shoulder and leaned on the guardrail, resisting Lin Guang's martial arts, which made her hands sore and weak, and she couldn't even pick up the sword. Her face turned pale. Obviously resisting this martial arts was beyond her strength. She leaned on the guardrail, her body weak, and slowly slid down. Lin Guang looked at everyone and shouted loudly, "The winner has been decided. This person's strength is far inferior to mine, and he is not worthy of joining our Lin family martial arts hall." He shouted angrily, and then put away his spear, and prepared to leave. At this moment, Lu Chuan's figure suddenly jumped onto the martial arts stage. He quickly came to Gu Xiaorao's side, his face condensed into the nine heavens mysterious fire, and began to heal her. "Are you feeling better?" Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly. "I'm fine. I'm going to kill this bastard." Lu Chuan turned around, glaring at Lin Guang. At this moment, Zhan Xianyu stood up in an instant. He recognized Lu Chuan at a glance, and he never expected that Lu Chuan would rush onto the arena at this time. Chapter 614, Killing Lin Guang instantly. The atmosphere at the entire selection meeting suddenly dropped to freezing point. After Zhan Xianyu stood up, he stared at Lu Chuan's figure, and he was frightened. Huang Wanhu and Lin Xianhei were surprised by Zhan Xianyu's strange behavior. "Xianyu, is there any problem?" Huang Wanhu asked. Lin Xianhei asked with an unhappy face, "Who is this person who rushed to the ring? He is breaking our rules. We can't let him go." At this time, on the fighting stage, Lin Guang was glared at by Lu Chuan's fierce eyes. and his hair stood up all over his body, and he felt great fear in his heart. But the next moment, he calmed down, pointed at Lu Chuan and shouted angrily, "Who are you? No one else can come on stage during the competition. This is the rule. You broke the rule, and don't take our Lin family seriously. I think you are looking for death." Gu Xiaosang in the audience shouted loudly, "You bastard, you should be the one to die." Lin Guang continued to shout, "What? Do you still want to fight? She is not as skilled as others, and lost to me. That is her own problem. If I were merciful, I could give her some extra points, but now, her selection qualification has been cancelled. Go home and practice slowly." After he finished speaking, he was about to walk off the stage. At this time, Lu Chuan stood up, looked straight at him, and said in a deep voice, "Did I let you go? What? You want to fight with me? You want to act as a flower protector, right?" He looked back at Lu Chuan, moving his wrist, ready for another fight. At this time, Zhan Xianyu hurriedly shouted, "Lu Chuan, calm down. I will give you a satisfactory solution. Don't be impulsive." If Lu Chuan directly killed Lin Guang here, it would undoubtedly offend the Lin family of Xianshu City. At that time, Lu Chuan's situation would be even more dangerous. Hearing Zhan Xianyu's panic, Huang Wanhu and Lin Xianhe were both frightened. "Zhan Xianyu, do you know this person?" Huang Wanhu looked at him with some surprise. Lin Xianhe asked with a little displeasure, "How do you want to deal with it? It is inevitable to get hurt when sparring. There is nothing wrong with what Lin Guang did." Zhan Xianyu took a deep breath and said to Lu Chuan again, "Lu Chuan, I didn't know you knew her. If I knew, I would go on stage to stop Lin Guang from doing it." "Zhan Xianyu, don't say any more. You helped me before, so we have some friendship, but I can't trust you yet." Lu Chuan raised his hand and pointed at Lin Guang. "I will kill this man in front of me. It is absolutely impossible for him not to die today." Hearing this, Lin Xianhe slammed the table and stood up. "You dare?" Lin Guang said confidently, "Master, don't worry, let me meet him and see how much he weighs." Seeing this, the audience around them suddenly became nervous, and any discussion was instantly dispelled. The next moment, Lin Guang rushed towards Lu Chuan with a spear in his hand. Seeing this, Zhan Xianyu sighed helplessly, but still failed to persuade Lu Chuan. He couldn't help but think in his heart, who is this injured girl to him? "Zhan Xianyu, are you afraid of him?" Lin Xianhe asked with a puzzled look. "Not to the point of being afraid, but he is not an ordinary person. My apprentice is not an ordinary person either. They are all geniuses picked from thousands of people. Who can be worse than who? Moreover, he is one of my most proud disciples. I will naturally believe in his strength." He looked at Lin Guang very carefully, not worried that Lin Guang would lose at all. At this time, Lin Guang had already rushed towards Lu Chuan. He was full of murderous intent and was determined to teach Lu Chuan a lesson. Seeing his domineering appearance, Lu Chuan had already moved his murderous intent in his heart. The next moment, Lu Chuan rushed towards him without hesitation. The speed that Lu Chuan suddenly burst out directly shocked Lin Guang. This speed. Before he could say anything, the next moment, Lu Chuan had brushed past his spear and came back to him. Then, Lu Chuan raised his hand to hold the spear and raised his knee to the spear. Cap! Exclamation mark. The spear made of steel was broken into two pieces on the spot. Lin Guang, who was standing there, was immediately shocked. He took a few steps back and looked at Lu Chuan with fear in his eyes. The speed and strength he showed just now had completely shocked him. This strength was simply too terrifying. The two of them were not opponents on the same level at all. Not only did he realize this instantly, but all the other spectators basically saw this. Lu Chuan's strength was terrifying. Then, Lu Chuan raised his hand and grabbed Lin Guang's neck and lifted him up with one hand. In an instant, Lin Xianhe stood up suddenly. He was really scared and looked at Lu Chuan with anger in his eyes. "What do you want to do? Let my apprentice go," he shouted angrily and ordered Lu Chuan to let go. "Lin Xianhe, sit down," Zhan Xianyu scolded. "Zhan Xianyu, why are you talking to me like this?" He looked at Zhan Xianyu in disbelief. "Let Lu Chuan kill Lin Guang. You can't stop him." "Bullshit. I can't stop a young man like him? You are slapping my face." Zhan Xianyu continued. "Sit down. It's really hard for you to do anything to him. He is very strong. Suddenly, there was a click, and Lu Chuan broke Lin Guang's neck with one hand. Before Lin Guang died, he didn't have time to beg for mercy, and was killed by Lu Chuan directly. Then, Lu Chuan threw him aside like throwing garbage. It was still easy for Lu Chuan to deal with a second-grade warrior in the king of martial arts. Then, he turned his head to look at Lin Xianhei and asked, "Do you have any objections?" Lin Xianhei clenched his fists, his joints cracked. He took deep breaths with anger, and finally flicked his sleeves, and left on the spot. Zhan Xianyu saw this and sighed helplessly. Huang Wanhu, who was standing next to him, looked a little confused. Zhan Xianyu, who is this Lu Chuan? Don't worry about it. Just don't provoke him. Huang Wanhu looked confused and nodded helplessly. Then, Zhan Xianyu walked quickly towards the ring. Lu Chuan, you didn't even tell me you were coming. If I knew you were coming, you would definitely have a seat on the judges panel. Lu Chuan turned his head to look at Zhan Xianyu and asked, if I kill this guy, will the Lin family treat me as an enemy? Zhan Xianyu nodded helplessly. It's probably the case. Or, just bypass Xianshu City and go somewhere else. Zhan Xianyu suggested. Why should I take a detour for the Lin family? I'm going to Xianshu City next, and no one can change that. After that, Lu Chuan turned and walked towards Gu Xiaorao. Under the healing of the Nine Heavens mysterious fire, her wounds had been healed as before, and her complexion had also become much better. Are you okay? It's okay, the wound has healed, but I think I caused you trouble. Lu Chuan smiled calmly. What kind of trouble is this? Why would I be afraid of a mere martial arts family? Chapter 615 Masked Assassin. Lu Chuan was not afraid of the Lu family, the dominant family in Kunlun domain, so he would not be afraid of a martial arts family in Xianshu City. Since the Lin family had a grudge against him, let them be. Lu Chuan did not care about it. The selection meeting continued in a hurry and ended hastily. This year, the Zhen family selected 10 young warriors to join the Zhen family, just like in previous years. Of course, Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang withdrew from the selection. Otherwise Zhan Xianyu would recruit Gu Xiaorao no matter what, even if it would offend the Lin family. After the selection, Lu Chuan took Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang back to the Hua family mansion. After Gu Xiaorao changed her clothes, it was almost dark and the Lantern Festival was about to begin. This festival was just a celebration festival. For Hua Cheng, as long as there was something worth celebrating, this festival could be held once, and the whole city would have a day of eating, drinking and having fun. Compared with other cities, Hua Cheng is a good city that is comfortable and livable. Of course, the core reason still lies with the Hua family. The various medicinal herbs and precious plants sold by the Hua family every year have created huge wealth for Hua Cheng, making the city rich. In the evening, Lu Chuan changed into a loose white robe and walked out of the Hua mansion with Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang. The streets were already full of beautiful lanterns, pedestrians were bustling, and street vendors were shouting lively. Hua Qianwu has built a huge stage in the square and is performing a show. Gu Xiaosang took Gu Xiaorao's arm and said with a smile, "Let's go over and take a look, don't miss anything." The three of them soon arrived at the square, and there were indeed many people gathered here. On the stage, there will be a night of performances, including the opening dance performances of Hua Qianwu and Yang Menghun, as well as subsequent acrobatics, crosstalk, magic-like tricks, and martial arts performances. Overall, it is still very rich. People here don't have extra ways to entertain themselves, so as soon as this show starts, it can attract quite a lot of people to watch. The dense crowd is even difficult to squeeze in. Fortunately, Lu Chuan and his friends could sit in the front row of the VIP seats, and they didn't have to squeeze in with the group of people. After sitting in the VIP seats, Lu Chuan and his friends ate snacks on the table, while enjoying various performances. "Let's go tomorrow, and go to Xianshu City," Lu Chuan said. Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly. "No problem. I want to stay here for a while. Sister Qianwu is so nice. I want to see more of her performances," Gu Xiaosang said with some regret. "Then you stay here," Lu Chuan said. "No, I still want to be with my sister." Gu Xiaosang hugged Gu Xiaorao's arm and smiled sweetly. Gu Xiaorao just smiled faintly and continued to enjoy the performance on the stage. Zhan Xianyu was also sitting in the VIP seats. He found Lu Chuan as soon as he arrived and sat down immediately. Lu Chuan, I'm so sorry about what happened this afternoon. It was unpleasant. He smiled awkwardly. Now he has completely lost the arrogance at the beginning, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Lu Chuan has become much more humble. After all, Lu Chuan's performance was too dazzling, so he had to pay attention to it. Of course, what he cared about most was that Lu Chuan could expel evil spirits from the human body, which was a rare ability. If someone in the Zun family encountered a similar situation in the future, he could borrow a favor to ask Lu Chuan to help. It's nothing. Anyway, the person is dead, and he has paid the price he deserves. That guy is really ignorant. It doesn't matter if he was beaten a little embarrassed. It's just a sparring match, but he even used martial arts. Forget about him. When are you going to Xianshu City? Tomorrow. Zan Xianayu nodded slightly. I'm going back tomorrow too. Or we go together? Lu Chuan looked at him, thought for a moment, and said, then let's go together. Lu Chuan could see that this man had no hostility towards him, and he looked flattering. If he could get help from the Zun family in Xianshu City, it would be much easier. That's great. I'll prepare the carriage tomorrow morning and wait for you at the gate of Hua's house. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. No problem. Then, Zan Xianayu looked at Guzayadora and Guzayada sang next to him. Who are these two? This is my fiancé. I see. No wonder. The four continued to watch the performance on the stage, and then a group of acrobats came on stage. The first person lay on the table, with his feet on a huge ceramic jar, constantly rolling on his feet, attracting cheers from the crowd below. Then, another person came on stage, holding a dart in his hand, and shot darts continuously at the ceramic jar. More than a dozen darts were shot in a row, all shot on the ceramic jar. Everyone looked and found that each dart hit the marked position accurately. This accuracy really made everyone admire it, and they all applauded warmly. The person who shot the dart was wearing a white mask, and it was unclear what he looked like. Then, he held the dart and seemed to be ready to shoot again. However, when he got ready to throw darts, he suddenly turned around, facing the audience, and shot 5 or 6 darts in a row. Swish. The darts flew towards Lu Chuan. Swish. A dart hit Lu Chuan's shoulder, and the rest of the darts were about to hit him, but Lu Chuan quickly dodged. Ding. 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 The subsequent darts all hit the table. For a moment, the lively stage was silent. It was a good performance, but suddenly such a thing happened. For a moment, everyone was stunned for a moment and couldn't react. Is this guy crazy? He actually shot darts at the audience. Is this guy an assassin? He is so brave that he dares to do it here. My god, what is going on? Why is this happening? The crowd was frightened and fled in panic. For a moment, the whole place was in chaos. The audience wanted to escape from here, and there was even a stampede. Lu Chuan hid aside and pulled the dart off his shoulder. Guzayadora hurried over, squatted beside Lu Chuan, and asked, "How are you? The dart shouldn't have hurt you deeply." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "Don't worry about me, this dart is nothing. But that guy is really brave enough to attack me in this situation." Lu Chuan looked up at the stage and saw that the figure who threw the dart had disappeared. He actually escaped. Is he so fast? Zan Xianayu hurriedly said, "I have sent people to look for him. We will definitely find that guy." "Who is this guy? Who sent him?" Lu Chuan murmured. "I'm afraid I won't get an answer for a while. No matter who it is, I won't let him go." Suddenly, Lu Chuan felt a stinging pain in the wound on his shoulder, as if the dart was poisonous and the toxin took effect at this moment. Chapter 616 Leaving Flower City. As soon as Lu Chuan was stabbed, Zan Xianayu hurriedly came up and carefully checked Lu Chuan's wound. "Are you okay? Fortunately, you are agile and dodged the other darts." Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. "This dart is poisonous, and the wound is a little stinging, but it's not a big problem." Zan Xianayu heard this and immediately panicked. "Poisonous? Then, is there an antidote?" "There are many spiritual plants in the Hua family, so they should be able to find an antidote, right?" he said hurriedly. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. "This little bit of poison, I can eliminate it quickly." Then, Lu Chuan began to circulate the 9 heavens mysterious fire in his body, and a warm energy rushed to the wound on his shoulder. Almost instantly, the wound on his shoulder was healed. Zanshianayu, who was standing next to him, also felt a warm breath and asked quickly, "How did your wound heal?" He pointed at Lu Chuan's shoulder and asked with some curiosity. Lu Chuan stood up, dusted himself off, and said calmly, "Send someone to catch that guy and try to bring him back to me." Zanshianayu's face darkened, and he nodded slightly, then turned back to look at his 3 apprentices. "Did you hear me? Go search the whole city and bring this guy back to me, as long as you find him." "Yes." The 3 apprentices nodded obediently, then turned around and began to pour into the crowd. At this moment, Huakai and Wu hurriedly walked through the VIP seats and walked towards Lu Chuan. She hadn't even had time to take off the dance costume she had just worn, and she hurried over. "Lu Chuan, how is the situation here? I heard that someone wants to assassinate you." She ran over in a hurry, breathing heavily. Gu Xiaosang beside him said quickly, "It's just a minor injury, but the bastard escaped. We may not be able to catch him for a while." Huakai and Wu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, I will let everyone in the Hua family search the whole city together, and we will definitely catch that bastard." Lu Chuan waved his hand. "No need, I think that guy is a veteran and experienced, and he probably left a way out for himself a long time ago. In his eyes, his assassination mission may have been completed. After all, he injected the toxin into my body, but this little toxin has little effect on me. If the other party knows that I'm not dead, he will definitely wait for another opportunity to attack. From the fact that he dared to act so openly today, he is very courageous and will definitely not let it go." After Lu Chuan finished speaking, he looked at Zanshianayu and said, "Let's go to Xianshu City together tomorrow. If that guy sees that I'm safe and sound, he will definitely not be able to restrain himself and attack again." Zanshianayu clenched his fists and said viciously, "Don't worry, if he dares to come again, I will definitely not get rid of that bastard." Gu Xiaorao stood beside Lu Chuan and asked, "Who do you think sent the assassin?" "It's meaningless to guess now. We'll know when we catch that guy." Lu Chuan looked at Gu Xiaorao and said, "Go back and have a good rest. We'll set off early tomorrow morning." Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly. Gu Xiaosang looked at the stage reluctantly, but finally left with Gu Xiaorao. Huakai and Wu sighed deeply and said angrily, "Why did an assassin sneak into a good performance party? This matter must be investigated thoroughly." Zanshianayu looked at Huakai and Wu and said, "This is a performance party held by your Hua family. Those acrobatic performers were also invited by you. Investigate it carefully. If Lu Chuan wasn't different from ordinary people, he would have died here." Huakai and Wu was full of apologies. She naturally knew that she had failed in her duty this time, so she could only turn around and try her best to investigate the results. At this time, after returning to the Hua family, Lu Chuan and the other 2 said goodnight to each other and went back to their rooms to sleep. Before going to bed, Lu Chuan took out the branch of a sacred tree. He sat cross-legged on the bed, absorbing the abundant spiritual energy contained in the branch. He was very close to breaking through to the 9th level of the nascent soul realm. Lu Chuan estimated that he would be able to complete the breakthrough in less than a week of practice. However, he didn't know when he could cross the nascent soul realm and enter the next great realm. If he could enter the spiritual division realm, then there would be few people in the Kunlun domain who would be his opponent. It was not until midnight that Lu Chuan stopped practicing and fell asleep on the bed. The next morning, after getting up, Lu Chuan began to pack up and prepare to leave. After taking a few sets of clothes, Lu Chuan walked out of the guest room and came to the yard. Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang had been waiting for a long time. "The carriage is waiting outside, let's go." Gu Xiaorao walked towards Lu Chuan. "Have you found any results from yesterday's incident?" Gu Xiaorao shook her head helplessly. It was too dark, there were too many people, and the man was very agile, so we couldn't find any results at all. Because of this incident, everyone else in the city is in a panic. After all, a killer lurking in the city makes people feel uneasy. Don't think about it. If he dares to do it again, we must not give him a chance to escape. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Yes, if nothing unexpected happens, he will probably do it again. Lu Chuan walked towards the gate of the Hua family's mansion. At the gate, Hua Qianwu had been waiting for a long time, and the head of the Hua family, Hua Tao, was also here to see him off. After Lu Chuan came over, Hua Qianwu hurried over to greet him. I know you're leaving. I don't know why. I'm still a little sad. But I know that no matter how we try to keep you, you will definitely not stay in Huacheng, and you shouldn't stay in this small town. But before you leave, I still want to give you a gift to express my gratitude to you. Then, she took out a small ceramic bottle from her arms and handed it to Lu Chuan. What is this? This is Xianyuan pill, a pill that our Hua family secretly refines. It can help practitioners speed up their cultivation and can also provide help when they are about to break through. So you accept it. It will help you a lot. Hua Qianwu said, revealing a gentle smile. Thank you very much. Lu Chuan put the pill away. Hua Tao hurried over and said with a smile, how can you thank us? We should thank you, and thank you very much. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid our Hua family would really perish slowly. The feat of saving the spirit tree, except for you, no one else can do it. He held Lu Chuan's hand and said with a smile. At this time, Zhan Xianyu walked in. Mr. Lu, you can set off for Xianshu City. I have contacted the people there and arranged accommodation for you. Lu Chuan nodded slightly and followed Zhan Xianyu out of the Hua family mansion. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 617 Heading to Xianshu City. At the gate of the Hua family's mansion, Lu Chuan got on Zhan Xianyu's carriage and sat in the cabin. Lu Chuan and the other two sat side by side, facing Zhan Xianyu and his disciples. When we get to Xianshu City, is there anything special you want to do? Zhan Xianyu asked with a smile. After Lu Chuan pondered for a moment, he looked at Zhan Xianyu and asked, are there any people from the Lu family in Xianshu City? Hearing this, Zhan Xianyu frowned and pondered. People from the Lu family, are you talking about the Lu family, the overlord of Kunlun domain? Yes, their influence is very extensive, and it should involve Xianshu City, right? Zhan Xianyu nodded slightly. Yes, the Lu family has a branch in Xianshu City. But it's just a small branch, and it can be regarded as a top force in Xianshu City. At least the major families in Xianshu City dare not offend them. By the way, you should have some relationship with them, right? Zhan Xianyu looked at Lu Chuan curiously. After all, his surname was also Lu, and he might have a connection with the Lu family in Kunlun domain. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Yes, I have a relationship with them. Really? I didn't expect you to have this relationship. No wonder you are so powerful. You are from the Lu family. Lu Chuan laughed at himself and said helplessly, I'm not from the Lu family. They have never regarded me as a member of the Lu family. Why do you say that? Zhan Xianyu suddenly froze and looked at Lu Chuan curiously. Because the Lu family and I are enemies, they want to send people to kill me, and I want to overthrow their family. Is there a problem? As soon as these words came out, Zhan Xianyu's face froze, and the whole person froze in place, motionless. The three apprentices next to him were all frightened and pale at this moment. Zhan Xianyu took a deep breath and asked again, are you serious? The Lu family regards you as an enemy? Are you going to fight to the death? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Yes, that's right. That's the situation. Do you think there is anything wrong? At this time, a disciple sitting next to Zhan Xianyu looked at Guxiaorao and Guxiaosang and asked, such a dangerous person, you dare to follow all the way, are you not afraid of death? Guxiaorao heard this, and just smiled faintly. Lu Chuan will protect me. Guxiaosang laughed proudly. Lu Chuan protects my sister protects me, which is equivalent to Lu Chuan also protecting me. What am I afraid of? Both of them smiled faintly, as if they didn't take it seriously. The reactions of these two people made Zhan Xianyu a little confused. Lu Chuan is not from Kunlun domain, and he doesn't know how powerful the Lu family is here. You two grew up in Kunlun domain. Don't you know what kind of existence the Lu family is? Zhan Xianyu couldn't help but get nervous. Maybe the assassin yesterday was really sent by the Lu family. Lu Chuan shook his head decisively. Absolutely impossible. Are you so sure? He looked up at Lu Chuan and asked curiously. Lu Chuan went on to explain, because, before you came, the Lu family had already sent an assassin to assassinate me. In a short period of time, they probably don't have the energy to send a second one. Zhan Xianyu suddenly became curious. You actually have already fought with someone from the Lu family. What was the result? Of course I won. Otherwise, could I still sit here and chat with you? Zhan Xianyu nodded slightly. That's true. However, the people sent by the Lu family should be quite ordinary, otherwise, you might not be able to deal with them. Lu Chuan went on, the assassin they sent is called Lu Ming. Have you heard of him? Zhan Xianyu's mouth twitched, and he asked in disbelief, Lu Ming? You actually killed Lu Ming? Yes, he died in the Fanhua Valley, and died together with Huang Yuking, the third elder of Xian Wu sect. What? And Huang Yuking? You killed both of them alone? Zhan Xianyu was still in a daze. He originally thought that Lu Chuan was very powerful, but he saw Lu Chuan defeat his most proud apprentice. But what he didn't expect was that Lu Chuan actually killed Lu Ming, and Huang Yuking died at his hands. Huang Yuking's Xian Wu sect is one of the best martial arts sects in Xianxu City, and several of its elders are at the top of Xianxu City. He actually died in your hands. Zhan Xianyu still couldn't believe it, and even thought that Lu Chuan might be bragging, but he looked at Lu Chuan carefully, and it didn't seem like he was bragging. So, you not only offended the Lu family, a dominant family, but also offended the Xian Wu sect. And these two forces are distributed in Xianxu City. You even offended the Lin family. He rubbed his forehead and said helplessly, you are a person from the secular world, and you have offended so many people. I didn't expect you to be a dangerous person. Lu Chuan found it interesting, and asked with a smile, why, do you regret pulling us in? Zhan Xianyu shook his head hurriedly, that's not the case. I just sigh that you are really not an ordinary person. I'm even a little curious. These enemies of yours are all powerful. Who will win and lose in the end? Gu Xiaorao pulled Lu Chuan's arm and said confidently, we will definitely win. So confident? Gu Xiaorao nodded heavily. Of course, I believe him. The look in her eyes when she looked at Lu Chuan was full of admiration. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. When the enemy comes, the general will stop him, and when the water comes, the earth will cover it. For my goal, I will not stop. He must fight all the way to the Lu family to clear his father's name. He is not a traitor to the Lu family, and he should not be abandoned to the secular world by the Lu family. In order to achieve this goal, he must directly hit the Lu family with his fists and use force to avenge his father. The carriage drove out of the city and headed for Xianxu City along the road. Zhan Xianyu, who was sitting in the carriage, was not in a good mood at the moment. Lu Chuan had provoked so many people, and he might also get into trouble. However, he also believed that, if he made friends with Lu Chuan, he should be able to get help in the future by selling a favor, just like the Hua family in Huacheng. Lu Chuan made a move and even saved their family. Thinking about it, a sad look appeared on his face. In his eyes, Lu Chuan was like a time bomb, but this bomb might explode into a pile of gold coins. Along the road, the carriage kept driving, and several people chatted casually. Lu Chuan asked some questions about the situation in Xianxu City. All I know is that this Xianxu City is a city that advocates martial arts, and trade is very developed. It is a place with a strong commercial and martial arts atmosphere. It is such a place that can breed many wealthy families and powerful people. This is both a paradise for martial artists and a hell for martial artists. Chapter 618 Assassin. As the carriage drove out, the few people had nothing to talk about, and they all leaned against the window to look at the scenery outside. As the carriage drove, Zhan Xianyu suddenly asked, who do you think was the person who assassinated you last night? I mean, which force could he be from? Since it's not the Lu family, not the Lin family, it seems that it can only be the Xian Wu sect, right? Zhan Xianyu guessed. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. It seems that the Xian Wu sect is the biggest suspect. I'm still very curious. The toxin didn't affect you at all, and your injuries healed almost instantly. Could it be that you have some special artifact physique with super healing ability? He guessed. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. This is a secret. You don't need to know. If you are seriously injured, you can come to me, and I will help you heal as before. Zanshianayu was suddenly excited. He was waiting for this sentence. That's a deal. If I get into trouble and get seriously injured that day, I'll go find you. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. No problem. The power of the nine heavens mysterious fire is easy to use. If you can do someone a favor, it's a good deal. The carriage continued to move, and suddenly it made a thump and shook violently. Guzayada-sang, who was leaning against the window and was bored and sleepy, was suddenly startled and lost all his sleepiness. What's going on? I was scared. Zanshianayu said, there should be a stone on the road, and you tripped, right? It shouldn't be a big problem. However, the speed of the carriage gradually slowed down, making people realize that something was wrong. The carriage slowly stopped, and Zanshianayu's face became solemn. What's going on? Coachman. Keep going. However, after shouting, there was no response at all. At this moment, Zanshianayu was a little panicked. He nervously shouted again, did you hear that? If you don't speak, you're dead. He hurriedly got off the car, and as soon as he got off the car, he smelled a bloody smell, which made his face look ugly. He walked around the car body and came to the front of the car. However, the next moment, the scene in front of him made him dumbfounded. The driver sitting in the driver's seat sat there, but his head disappeared. The two horses at the front of the carriage all collapsed to the ground. All four legs were cut off, and the cross-section was extremely smooth. It was obvious that the murder weapon was very sharp. The two horses were panting, and blood was flowing out quickly, so that the two horses soon lost their lives. Seeing this weird scene in front of him, Zanshianayu panicked directly. He clenched his fists and roared around. Asshole! Get out! You only dare to hide in the dark. Do you dare to stand in front of me? Hearing Zanshianayu's roar, Lu Chuan and others also hurriedly got off the carriage and came to the front of the carriage. When they saw the bloody scene in front of them, they were all scared and took a few steps back. Lu Chuan stood firmly in place, frowning. It's strange that the cut surface is so smooth. Guzayada-sang quickly turned back and squatted on the side of the road, feeling his stomach churning. Guzayada hid behind Lu Chuan, not daring to look anymore. I have no idea when the enemy made the move. Also, what do you think the murder weapon is? Zanshianayu asked hurriedly. Lu Chuan said in a serious tone, the cut surface is so smooth, the murder weapon must be very sharp. If the assassin suddenly attacked and chopped a few times, the driver and the horse would be frightened and scream. Obviously, the murderer himself did not show up. This is the result of the trap setup. Zanshianayu quickly glanced around. You mean, that bastard is hiding nearby? What other traps can create this effect? Sharp wire. It needs to be particularly sharp to do this. It seems that this guy is not simple. He must be coming for me. At this point, an apprentice besides Zanshianayu hurriedly came over and said in panic, the enemy is using silk thread as a weapon. He was obviously frightened. His face was pale, and he was shaking all over. Li Jiang, you are one of my most proud disciples. Look how scared you are. Li Jiang couldn't stop shaking all over. He swallowed and said, Master, do you remember that Xianxu city also has an assassin's list? Really? Yes, the number one on the assassin's list is Beihao, and his best weapon is silk thread. He can use silk thread to set up all kinds of traps and kill people invisibly. Once in Xianxu city, he accidentally offended an inner disciple of Xianwu sect, and he killed him without any hesitation. Then, Xianwu sect announced to the public that it would hunt down this bastard to the ends of the earth. But the weird thing is that in the following few days, not only did Xianwu sect fail to kill Beihao, but the inner disciples of Xianwu sect disappeared one after another. It was not until more than 10 days later that the bodies were found in the wild one after another. When Li Jiang said this, it aroused some bad memories of Zanshianayu. I have influence on what you're talking about. During that period of time, Xianwu sect did have reports of disciples disappearing unexpectedly and evaporating from the face of the earth. During that period of time, people from other major martial arts families were all in a panic and didn't dare to go out alone. The culprit turned out to be this guy named Beihao. And how did you know? Li Jiang panicked and quickly explained, because the two incidents happened almost a month apart. Many people have forgotten about it, so they didn't connect them together. I have always remembered the news that Cheyenne Wu sect was wanted for Beihao. It wasn't until a month later that inner disciples of Cheyenne Wu sect disappeared one after another that I thought it might be Beihao's doing. Zhan Xianyu's face became solemn. I don't know anything about this assassin you mentioned. I don't know much either. Few people in the outside world know him, and most of them have only heard of his name. Zhan Xianyu looked up at Lu Chuan. Do you know this Beihao? No. That's strange. Why would he attack you? Zhan Xianyu glanced around again, afraid of missing any moving figures. I'm standing here now to see if he will come out and attack me himself. Once we catch him, everything will be clear. I'm afraid it will be very difficult to deal with someone who even the Cheyenne Wu sect can't deal with. Zhan Xianyu became nervous. Although he was not weak in strength, it was obvious that this Beihao was an absolute top-level expert in Xianshu City. Is the Cheyenne Wu sect very strong? Can't they deal with me either? Since this Beihao is a top-level expert, let me fight him. I'm afraid he doesn't have the courage to show his head at all. As soon as Lu Chuan finished speaking, a cold and low voice came from the surroundings. Lu Chuan, I'm going to take your head. Today, there is no possibility for you to escape. This is your life and death formation. You can't escape. Chapter 619, Heaven and Earth Net. Beihao's voice came faintly from all around, and it was impossible to locate him by the sound, and it was impossible to tell where he was. Then, Zhan Xianyu shouted loudly to the surroundings. Asshole, get out of here. You are Beihao, right? Get out of here. Let me see what you are. He roared angrily and scanned the surroundings fiercely. That's right. I'm Beihao, Zhan Xianyu from the Zhen family. You dare to talk to me like this? Aren't you afraid that I will kill you too? Zhan Xianyu snorted coldly. You dare? If you dare to kill me, our Zhen family will never let you go. If you dare to attack me, you will definitely die. However, Beihao sneered and said disdainfully, do you really think I will be afraid of your Zhen family? The people of Cheyenne Woman can't catch me, and you Zhen family want to kill me with your delusion? It's just a dream. Zhan Xianyu took a deep breath. He didn't expect this guy to be so arrogant that he was not afraid of even their Zhen family. He then continued to ask, tell me, who ordered you to deal with Lu Chuan? Beihao sneered. Sorry, you are not qualified to know this. You only need to know that Lu Chuan will die today. No one can stop it. Zhan Xianyu turned back to look at Lu Chuan, his face a little ugly. This guy is obviously a little difficult to deal with. What should I do? He looked at Lu Chuan and asked. Lu Yu stood in place and said calmly, then let's fight him. Am I afraid of him? A guy who can only hide in the dark. Would I be afraid of him? At this time, Zhan Xianyu felt very bad. After all, this guy can even play around with Cheyenne Woman, making Cheyenne Woman completely helpless and without any way to deal with it. Even his Zhen family, it is hard to say that they can deal with this guy. After all, this top assassin, let alone other things, just finding his trace is already a very difficult thing. And this guy's hiding in the dark, and their forces are all in the open. If they offend Beihao, the disciples of the Zhen family will have to be careful when they go out in the future. Lu Chuan, why don't we just go and not fight with this guy? It will be bad for us if we continue to fight. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. What are you thinking? He will definitely not let me go. In this case, let's fight here. Besides, if this kind of assassin is not dealt with early, it will be a headache to have him around all the time. As Lu Chuan said this, he pulled out the bronze sword, held the sword tightly with both hands, and began to walk forward slowly. Soon, he saw two silk threads hanging in the air. The silk threads were almost transparent. It was this thing that had just killed the horse and the driver. Lu Chuan raised his hand and swung the sword, cutting the silk threads. Then he looked around. There was no need to think too much. There must be quite a lot of silk thread traps around. If you are not careful, you may be cut by the silk threads. Ha ha ha, you cut off 2 of my threads, but you don't know how many more are surrounding you. This 50-meter radius is your cage. You're dead. Swish. Suddenly, 2 darts shot out from the bushes. Seeing this, Lu Chuan quickly dodged sideways and avoided the darts. Humph, you're quite skilled, but now I'm in the driver's seat, and you can only take the beating. Then, Several more darts were shot out, all heading straight for Lu Chuan's vital point. Lu Chuan raised his bronze sword to block several darts, but he was still slightly injured by the darts. If this continues, Lu Chuan will definitely die slowly. He must find a way to break through here. Zanshianayu took a deep breath and looked at Guzayadora and Guzayada saying, "Stand still and don't move. Be careful of the traps around you. Once this net is set up, the chances of us escaping are probably slim." Zanshianayu looked worried and raised his hand to rub his forehead. Zanshianayu's apprentice Li Jiang looked very ugly at the moment. Based on past experience, once Beihao has set up this net in advance, there will be basically no way to survive. Each of the silk threads arranged around here is very sharp. If you want to rush out directly, you will definitely be torn into pieces by 5 horses and turned into a pile of fragments. But if you don't escape, being trapped here is a slow death. No matter what, it's difficult to find a way out. This is likely to be a dead end. Hearing what he said, Zanshianayu was unhappy, but he didn't know how to refute it. Don't say unlucky words. Lu Chuan hasn't really made a move yet. Zanshianayu scolded. At this time, Lu Chuan walked slowly forward. At this time, Beihao's voice came again. "Lu Chuan, have you accepted your fate? Let me remind you, if you go any further, you will soon be cut by the silk thread. Don't think that you can reduce the cut injuries by walking slowly forward, and don't think that the weapon on you can completely cut the silk thread. Otherwise, you can try it and see whether you will die or live." After he finished speaking, he laughed triumphantly. In his eyes, this seemingly invisible trap was his most proud work. At this moment, Lu Chuan put away the bronze sword. The silk thread arranged by the opponent was indeed very thin and extremely sharp. If you use the bronze sword to chop, it may cause damage to the sword body, and the broken silk thread may also easily hurt yourself. Lu Chuan now thought of a way to solve the current dilemma more easily. There is no need to use weapons to cut a way out. His method is naturally the sun god fire. With the blessing of this original divine fire, would Lu Chuan still be afraid of these sharp silk threads? So, Lu Chuan began to operate the sun god fire in his body. Gradually, his whole body began to heat up, and even the air around him began to distort. Seeing this, Zanshianayu opened his eyes wide. Lu Chuan's body has a strong burning heat. Did he use that trick again? He can control the fire. Guzayadorao came over and explained, "This is another trick, not the same thing. Next, let's see how he breaks through." Guzayadorao could tell at a glance that this time Lu Chuan used the sun god fire, not the 9 heavens mysterious fire. Compared with the 9 heavens mysterious fire, the sun god fire has a higher temperature and stronger destructive power. It is used to burn these silk threads, and will definitely melt them in 1 second. Boom! Exclamation mark. Suddenly, a dazzling flame rose from Lu Chuan's body, and his entire upper body was covered with flames. For a moment, Lu Chuan turned into a fireman and began to walk slowly forward. Bang, bang. Lu Chuan kept walking forward, and silk threads were burned one after another, and the silk threads fell slowly like hair. Seeing this, Beihao, who was hiding in the dark, was frightened. Chapter 620, The Power of Divine Fire. Beihao was frightened when the flames covered Lu Chuan's upper body. When he first saw Lu Chuan on fire, he thought that Lu Chuan was crazy and actually set himself on fire. However, when he saw that Lu Chuan was in the center of the flames, but was safe and sound, he was instantly shocked. This was the first time he had seen such a scene. He had dealt with many difficult enemies, many of whom had strange abilities, all kinds of them. They were much more bizarre than those who used silk threads as weapons. However, he had never seen anyone bathed in flames without any damage. This was beyond his understanding. He watched the silk threads he had arranged break one after another, and he became anxious. He didn't expect that his assassination plan, which was originally a sure thing, would be resolved so easily by the target. Beihao gritted his teeth and roared, "Why do you do this? You can dismantle my trap so brazenly." He roared, got out of the bushes directly, swung his right hand, and grabbed Lu Chuan. As he swung his right hand, you could see that 5 silk threads were wrapped around the 5 fingers of his right hand. The silk threads whipped over like a whip. If he wasn't wearing armor, he would be torn to pieces on the spot. If he was hit, Lu Chuan still didn't avoid it and walked towards him calmly. Seeing this, Beihao became even more angry. However, the next moment, the silk threads melted instantly before they could get close to Lu Chuan, and they couldn't touch Lu Chuan's body at all. Seeing this, Beihao, who jumped out, was completely panicked. He was wearing a grey-yellow linen shirt, hiding in this wilderness, and could blend in perfectly. He was wearing a black veil, and it was hard to see what he looked like, but from his eyes, you could see that he was a little panicked at the moment. He hurriedly turned his head and fled. His running speed was quite amazing. After several consecutive sprints in the bushes, he pulled away. He was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. After running out for a distance, he suddenly looked back and was relieved to see that Lu Chuan didn't chase him. When he ran away, he was terrified, afraid that he would be caught up by Lu Chuan. The dazzling flames were quite terrifying in his eyes. At this time, Lu Chuan stood in place, and the sun god fire on his body gradually retracted into his body. Then, Zhan Xianyu and the others hurriedly chased after him. Lu Chuan, that guy actually escaped, shouldn't we chase him? Zhan Xianyu hurried over. Lu Chuan shook his head lightly. No need, let him escape. He is very fast. If I rush out to chase him directly, I should be able to catch up with him, but in this case, you will be left behind. If this guy has any accomplices, it's hard to say. After speaking, Lu Chuan looked at Gu Xiaorao. He was mainly worried about Gu Xiaorao's safety. Zhan Xianyu nodded slightly. This guy probably never dreamed that his trap would be broken so quickly. In the past, when he met a strong enemy, he would also be trapped, but he was killed by that bastard's hidden weapon before he could even dismantle half of it. Fortunately, the flames on your body instantly cleared all the traps. Zhan Xianyu sighed, as if he had survived a disaster. He almost thought that he was going to die with Lu Chuan. Now it seems that Lu Chuan is indeed not an ordinary person. Even Beihao is helpless with him. The flames burning all over his body are not something that ordinary people can have. At this time, Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang came over. Lu Chuan, how are we going to Xianshu City now? The carriage is destroyed. Gu Xiaorao walked to Lu Chuan's side and asked, wait a while, see if we can meet someone who is going the same way, and give us a ride. Gu Xiaorao nodded helplessly. They are still a long way from Xianshu City. If they walk on foot, they may not reach their destination until tomorrow. So, after they walked forward for a distance, they all stood on the side of the road and began to wait. Li Jiang looked at Lu Chuan and sighed. If you hadn't broken the trap just now, we would have all died there. Isn't he targeting me? Does it have anything to do with you two? Li Jiang smiled and said, this guy kills like crazy. Killing one or two more is nothing in his eyes. What about Zhan Xianyu? He is a core member of the Zhan family. Li Jiang glanced at Zhan Xianyu. Master, don't blame me for being outspoken. If we couldn't break the trap just now, we would really have died in his hands. Zhan Xianyu frowned and nodded slightly. Indeed, this possibility is very high. That guy is cruel by nature and has almost lost his humanity. He has killed at least thousands of people. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sit on the throne of the #1 killer list in Xianshu City. Lu Chuan suddenly seemed to be thinking about something. After thinking about it, he said, since they are all killers and assassins, this guy may have some relationship with Lu Ming. Maybe he knew that I killed Lu Ming, so he came to me. Zhan Xianyu nodded slightly after hearing this. Maybe. Anyway, his motives are still unclear. At this time, a carriage slowly approached from a distance. The carriage was very simple and clean, with only a thin brown horse in front, moving slowly forward. Zhan Xianyu stood directly in the middle of the road and stopped the carriage. The driver looked at Zhan Xianyu and asked, Sir, is there anything you want to stop us for? The driver smiled flatteringly. He could see that Zhan Xianyu was dressed well and must be rich or noble, so he didn't dare to offend him. Take us to Xianshu City, and I'll give you the money. The driver counted the people in front of him. There were 7 of them. He immediately showed a worried look and said with some embarrassment, there are too many people, right? I wonder if we can sit down. We have to hurry on our way. Just sit down first, and when we get to the destination, you will have to pay for the journey. Zhan Xianyu said, without waiting for the driver to agree. turned around and looked at everyone, saying, "Let's go, get in the car together, don't stand here and wait." Lu Chuan looked at Guzayao and Guzayao sang, "Get in the car, it's a waste of time to wait any longer." Then, everyone got on the carriage one after another. There was only one passenger in the carriage, a young girl in simple clothes. When she saw Lu Chuan and the others squeeze in, she immediately turned her head timidly to the corner. After getting on the carriage, Zhan Xianayu shouted to the driver, "Go ahead, when we get to the destination, I will reward you with 10 taels of gold." Hearing this, the driver was like a chicken with blood, and hurriedly shouted, "Okay, boss, we will set off now." The carriage moved forward slowly, not fast, but the advantage was that it was stable enough. Guzayao-san noticed the girl in the corner, and smiled at her. Seeing this, the girl looked even more timid. Guzayao-san looked depressed. "Do I look scary?" "No, it's just that there are too many bad people in this world. I'm afraid." "What are you afraid of? We are not bad people." Chapter 621 Xianshu City. The girl in the corner aroused Lu Chuan's curiosity. "Are you afraid that we are bad guys?" "Don't think too much. Except for this guy, who looks a bit like a bad guy, the rest of us are good guys." Lu Chuan pointed at Zhan Xianayu and said with a smile. Zhan Xianayu immediately retorted, "I look so upright, how can I be a bad guy?" The girl looked back at everyone. Her dirty face was a little childish. It can be seen that she is a child from a poor family. Lu Chuan then asked, "Are you from Xianshu City?" The girl shook her head slightly. "I don't know where I'm going." Hearing this, everyone present fell into deep thought. Guzayao-san hurriedly asked, "How can you not know where you are going? This carriage is going to Xianshu City." "Xianshu City? Where is that? I grew up in Hishu village." Her slightly childish face was full of ignorance, as if she knew nothing about the outside world. Seeing this, Lu Chuan seemed to realize something. He quickly shouted at the driver, "What's going on? Tell the truth." "Sir, don't worry about this. When we get to the destination, I don't want 10 taels of gold. I will be satisfied with 3 taels of silver. Are you going to tell me or not? If you don't tell me, you don't want the money, but you have to give me your life." Hearing this, the driver panicked. He thought he had pulled the god of wealth, but it turned out to be someone who came to take his life. The ZHU family of Xianshu City. Everyone should have heard of it, right? Lu Chuan knew nothing about this ZHU family, so he could only look at Zhan Xianayu. Zhan Xianayu quickly explained, "The ZHU family is the richest family in Xianshu City. They are rich enough to rival a country. Their family's wealth can buy everything in Xianshu City, except for those that are not for sale." The driver quickly continued, "This gentleman knows a lot." "That's right. This girl was bought by the master of the ZHU family as a concubine. We gave her father 5 taels of silver, and her father knelt down to thank us." Zhan Xianayu looked at Lu Chuan with a relaxed look. "Nothing, don't worry about it." Lu Chuan sighed helplessly. This kind of thing seems to be not uncommon here. However, seeing the girl's pitiful appearance, Lu Chuan also felt a little bit sorry. After all, he was not born and raised here, and he could not accept some of the concepts here. Guzayao pulled Lu Chuan's sleeve. "How about we help her?" Lu Chuan nodded slightly, then looked at the driver and said, "Then I'll give you 1 tael of gold to redeem her." Hearing this, the girl suddenly looked up at Lu Chuan, with a little surprise in her eyes. The driver was very embarrassed when he heard this. "Brother, the person that the ZHU family likes cannot be redeemed. No matter how much money you pay, they are not short of money. Do you understand? If I redeem her to you, I can't afford the blame from the master," he said with a sad face. In order to conceal his tracks, he specially used the most dilapidated carriage to transport the person back. But unexpectedly, he was still seen through. "I'll just leave the money here, and I'll take the person away. If the ZHU family is not happy, let them come to me." "Ah, don't do that. The ZHU family is almost covering the sky with one hand in Xianshu City. Unless you don't want to stay in Xianshu City in the future. Otherwise, even if you hide in other cities, they will find you." Zhan Xianayu was also panicked, and hurriedly persuaded Lu Chuan, "Mr. Lu, do you want to make more enemies? You are in Xianshu City, and you have almost offended several major forces. Zanshire Nayu was panicked. If Lu Chuan offended another ZHU family, then their Zan family would not dare to let Lu Chuan stay. I didn't say I wanted to offend the ZHU family. I told them to come to me, and we could discuss anything. If they don't discuss it properly, then there's naturally nothing I can do but offend them. Lu Chuan shrugged disapprovingly, not taking the matter too seriously. There's no need to do that to a little girl you don't know. Let's just forget it. Zanshire Nayu sighed helplessly. You know too little about Xianshu City. It's okay if you offend a few martial arts families, but the ZHU family does business in Xianshu City. You've offended the two most powerful families in Xianshu City, so you have no place to stand. Lu Chuan leaned back in his chair and said calmly, I went there to clear some obstacles. Whether it's the Lu family, the Lin family, or the Xianwu sect, I won't let them go. As for the ZHU family, I won't take it to heart. If you're afraid, we can go our separate ways when we get to Xianshu City. Zanshire Nayu suddenly became serious. How could I be afraid? Lu Chuan, I trust you. In that case, then when we get to Xianshu City, I'll bring this girl to our Zan family to settle down. If anyone from the ZHU family dares to come over, I'll confront them to the end. Seeing his statement, Lu Chuan smiled faintly. No problem. The driver was frightened when he heard the conversation between the two, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. It seemed that his little carriage had pulled a great figure. In the evening, the carriage finally passed through the gate of Xianshu City and entered the city. The scale of Xianshu City is indeed not small. It is divided into 4 areas in total, and each area is larger than the area of Huacheng. Stopping at an open space inside the city gate, Lu Chuan and others got off the carriage one by one. The driver walked quickly to Zanshire Nayu and said, 10 taels of gold, not a single one can be less. Didn't you say that only 3 taels of silver would be enough? Master, you have kidnapped my people. If I don't take back something to explain, can I still keep my head? You really don't know my situation. I dare not take a penny of these 10 taels of gold. Zanshire Nayu was too lazy to talk nonsense with him, and directly took out the gold from his pocket and handed it to him. Seeing the golden gold, he was relieved. At this time, a group of more than 10 people crossed the street and walked towards this side. This group of more than 10 people was full of momentum, and the passers-by around them made way for them, fearing to offend these people. Coming in front of them was a young master in green clothes, glancing around frivolously and complacently. I'm here to collect people today. Leah, have you brought the people back? The driver was frightened and stood there, at a loss, not knowing what to do. Master ZHU, why did you come here in person? I came to see how you did things. Where are the people? Did you bring that little beauty back? Send her back to my house quickly. Leah's lips trembled nervously, and he stammered. The people were brought back, but I also brought them back along the way. After that, he looked at Zanshire Nayu and Lu Chuan. Master ZHU looked at Zanshire Nayu and laughed immediately. Oh, isn't this the martial artist of the Zan family? I've heard of your name for a long time, and I actually met you here. I'm so lucky. Chapter 622 Young Master ZHU. When the young master of the ZHU family saw Zanshire Nayu, he immediately went up to him with a bright smile. I've heard of your name for a long time. I didn't expect to meet you here. By the way, Master Zan, what are you doing here? Zanshire Nayu didn't know how to start, so he looked at Lu Chuan on the side. Then, Lu Chuan stood up and said, we just came back from doing business outside. It's quite a coincidence that we met here. At this time, the coachman Leah standing on the side had been frightened and buried his head, not daring to look directly at him. The young master of the ZHU family looked at Lu Chuan and took a look. Lu Chuan was dressed in ordinary clothes and looked good. He didn't look like a powerful person. You are Zanshire Nayu's follower? Young Master ZHU guessed. Upon hearing this, Zanshire Nayu hurriedly explained, he is not my follower, but my friend. Since he is your friend, he is naturally my friend as well. My name is ZHU Zhengjiang, the third son of the head of the ZHU family. Nice to meet you. He walked up and shook hands with Lu Chuan. Then, he looked at the girl beside him and said, why are you still standing there? Come with me. Your father sold you to our family as a maid, not to let you stand there stupidly. Zanshire Nayu asked hurriedly, isn't she going to be your concubine? Dream on. That's to fool her parents. Let her parents think that they can live a good life by selling their daughter here. With such a lowly life, she is only worthy of being a maid. However, this girl is pretty. Let her finish her work and you can pamper her when you have nothing to do. This money is not wasted. He laughed and continued, our ZHU family never does business at a loss. No matter how big or small the business is, it must make money. This is the purpose of our family. He looked at Lu Chuan and said, if you have nothing else to do, please go back. I have to take people back here. After he finished speaking, he walked towards the girl. However, the girl hid behind Lu Chuan. Seeing her so timid, ZHU Zheng Jiang was immediately annoyed. Get out of here. My friend, please move aside. I'm going to take her back. ZHU Zheng Jiang said impatiently. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly, stood still, and said, she doesn't want to go back with you, can't you see? Nonsense. Who is willing to work as a laborer for someone else's family? She doesn't want to? Who is she? She has to be willing, even if she doesn't want to. Without saying a word, he walked towards Lu Chuan quickly, and was about to reach out, to pull the girl out. Then, Lu Chuan raised his hand, and grabbed his wrist. I'm afraid you can't take her away today. In an instant, ZHU Zheng Jiang's face turned cold, and he stared at Lu Chuan with his eyes, and said in a serious voice, what do you mean by this? You want to go against my ZHU family, right? The dozen or so followers behind him stepped forward one after another, revealing ferocious expressions. This scene directly frightened the girl, and made her tremble. Zanshire Nayu stood up, looked at Lu Chuan, and persuaded him, there is no need for this. We are strangers, so there is no need to offend each other. Then, Zanshire Nayu looked at ZHU Zheng Jiang and said seriously, don't offend him, I'm serious, otherwise you will cause a big trouble for your ZHU family. This made ZHU Zheng Jiang even more excited. How many people in this whole Xianshu city can I not offend? Who is he? He stared at Lu Chuan with his eyes wide open, and scolded, get out of my way, don't get in my way. The next moment, Lu Chuan kicked ZHU Zheng Jiang in the abdomen. The huge force kicked him out, and he rolled more than 10 meters before gradually stopping. This scene directly scared all the dozen followers. They all stood there, not knowing what to do. Naturally, they didn't dare to attack Lu Chuan, so they could only run towards ZHU Zheng Jiang in a hurry. Boss, are you okay? Boss, this guy's too arrogant. How about we go back and call for help? At this time, ZHU Zheng Jiang slowly opened his eyes, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and quickly put a pill into his mouth. He looked up at Lu Chuan and said nervously, well, you are so brave that you dare to hit someone from my ZHU family. My father will not let you go. Wait for death. If you have the guts, tell me your name. From now on, there will be no place for you in Xianshu City. He shouted angrily. His momentum did not decrease at all, but he did not dare to curse, for fear of offending Lu Chuan and killing him. Lu Chuan stood in place and said calmly, my name is Lu Chuan. Go back and inform everyone in your mansion to see if you have the ability to cause trouble to me. ZHU Zheng Jiang quickly got up from the ground, pointed at Lu Chuan and shouted angrily, just wait. Our ZHU family will not let you go. He turned around and was about to leave, but was immediately stopped by a younger brother. Young master. His name is Lu Chuan. ZHU Zheng Jiang shouted angrily, I'm not deaf, I know what he said. Young master, have you forgotten? At noon, the Hua family in Hua Cheng sent a representative to our house and renewed the business relations between our two families for 3 years. ZHU Zheng Jiang frowned and said impatiently, what does it have to do with me? What does this have to do with me? Young master ZHU, don't you remember? The Hua family's raw materials were out of stock a few months ago. There was a problem with the spiritual tree in their family. Now that it can be supplied, it means that the spiritual tree has been saved. Really? People who can save that kind of 1000-year-old spiritual tree are not ordinary. However, this matter still has nothing to do with me. How long are you going to talk nonsense? The follower hurriedly said. When the representative of the Hua family was negotiating business with the master, he mentioned the person who saved their Hua family's spiritual tree. That person's name is Lu Chuan. After hearing this, ZHU Zhengjiang was stunned where he was, and his brain suddenly worked at high speed. Are you serious? Is it really this guy? Absolutely true. His name is Lu Chuan, unless it's someone with the same name and surname. ZHU Zhengjiang fell into deep thought, and he was obviously a little panicked. Earlier today, when the Hua family sent representatives, his father kept flattering him, which was enough to show that the Hua family was going to rise again. And the person who made the Hua family rise again was definitely not an ordinary person. If his father knew that he had offended such a person, he would probably get a slap in the face. He took a deep breath and quickly calmed down. Now he realized that something was wrong. He actually offended such a person. He looked back at Lu Chuan again, and with great difficulty squeezed out a flattering smile on his face. He walked towards Lu Chuan, rubbing his hands, with a flattering smile on his face. Mr. Lu, we are really destined to meet here. This scene stuns Zhenxianayu. Mr. ZHU, what's going on with you? He asked curiously. ZHU Zhengjiang looked at Zhenxianayu and said, I was just joking. If Mr. Lu wants to take that person away, I will support his decision without hesitation. ZHU Zhengjiang's sudden change of attitude made Zhenxianayu confused. No, you are ZHU Zhengjiang, right? Where did you hide that person? Chapter 623 Zhen Family Mansion. ZHU Zhengjiang walked towards Lu Chuan, smiling flatteringly, rubbing his palms constantly, and said, we are all friends. Please don't take what I just said to heart. I, young Master ZHU, really want to make friends with you. As the son of a businessman, he would naturally weigh the interests in his heart. Obviously, he offended Lu Chuan here, which was a bad thing for the entire ZHU family. Not to mention that their cooperation with the Hua family would be destroyed. If he offended Lu Chuan, the ZHU family would be equivalent to losing a capable person to help in the future. This is absolutely unacceptable to their ZHU family. Lu Chuan looked at him coldly. Aren't you going to go back and call someone? No, I was just joking just now. This is all a misunderstanding. Otherwise, I will invite you to our house as a guest. We will definitely receive you as a VIP. He looked at Lu Chuan expectantly, hoping that Lu Chuan would do him a favor. Lu Chuan shook his head slightly and refused. Forget it, there is no need. I'm going to the Zhen family to rest for a night. ZHU Zhengjiang looked at Zhenxianayu and nodded with a smile. It can be seen that the two of you have a very good relationship. You must be good friends. That's not the case, but we have known each other for a while. Zhenxianayu smiled awkwardly. Mr. ZHU, your attitude changed quickly. Tell me, what's the situation? ZHU Zhengjiang scratched his head and said helplessly, Mr. Lu, have you been to the Hua family not long ago? Zhenxianayu looked at him in surprise. You know all this? Aren't you too well informed? It's like this. At noon, the Hua family sent representatives to discuss business cooperation with us again. At that time, we learned that the Hua family's dying family spirit tree had been revived by someone. And we also learned that the person who revived the spirit tree was a man named Lu Chuan. He looked at Lu Chuan and said respectfully, since you are the savior of the Hua family, and the Hua family is our family's partner, we can also be considered friends. He smiled awkwardly. Although it felt a bit forced, it was for the sake of making money after all. Would you like to visit our house? We will all welcome your arrival. He looked at Lu Chuan very seriously. Gu Xiaosang suddenly interrupted and said, don't go. I'm afraid this guy will set a trap in secret. ZHU Zhengjiang was anxious and quickly explained, Master Shan, I dare not say that. How dare I have bad intentions towards Master Lu? If Master Lu is willing to show us the favor, we will definitely give him the highest standard of hospitality. Lu Chuan waved his hand and said, forget it. I have to stay at the Zhen family first and rest for a while. Zhenxianayu breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Master ZHU, please go back. If there is a chance in the future, we will visit again. ZHU Zhengjiang pursed his lips awkwardly. Okay, no problem. You can come anytime. I welcome you anytime. Then, Lu Chuan and the others turned around and left here, taking the dirty girl with them. Looking at the backs of the few people, ZHU Zhengjiang's face was a little ugly. The Zhen family actually got the upper hand. These rough guys who practice martial arts are actually quite good at pleasing others. What bad luck. I didn't get anything. I'm bound to be scolded when I go back. Zhu Zhengjiang led his men away in embarrassment. Passing through the bustling streets of Xianshu City, Zhu Zhengjiang soon led his men back to the Zhu family mansion. The first thing he did when he returned to the mansion was to pay a visit to the head of the family. In the head of the family's study, a middle-aged man in white pajamas, who was sitting at the table reading a book by candlelight, put down the book in his hand when he saw Zhu Zhengjiang come in. "You came in a hurry. What's the matter?" "Dad, I just went out to pick up the maid I bought, but she was taken away." Zhu Qingcheng, who was sitting at the desk in front of him, heard this and his eyes suddenly became fierce. "Who dares to rob our Zhu family's people? You don't want to live, right? Besides, you are such a loser. You can watch the people you bought being robbed. It really brings shame to the Zhu family." Seeing him scolding like this, Zhu Zhengjiang hurriedly explained, "Dad, it's not that I don't want to rob, but the one who took the people away, his name is Lu Chuan." Hearing this, Zhu Qingcheng's expression instantly became solemn. Then, he looked at Zhu Zhengjiang in surprise and asked, "Are you serious? Is it that Lu Chuan?" "Yes, it's that Lu Chuan, the Lu Chuan from Huacheng." Zhu Qingcheng's breathing became rapid. He actually came to Xianshu City. This is a good opportunity. If such a talent can be used by our Zhu family, wouldn't our Zhu family be able to sit firmly at the top of Xianshu City? Why didn't you keep him, bastard?" Zhu Zhengjiang hurriedly explained, "Dad, it's not that I don't want to keep him, but someone took the lead. That guy is Zhen Xianyu from the Zhen family. He brought Lu Chuan to the Zhen family mansion." Zhu Qingcheng slammed the table angrily. "No, we can't let the Zhen family succeed. What qualifications do these warriors have to form an alliance with Lu Chuan? Early tomorrow morning, I will personally visit the Zhen family mansion. I want to see what they are going to do. If we can win over Lu Chuan, not only will our business with the Hua family be stable in the future, he will also help us solve more problems." Zhu Qingcheng took a deep breath. "I won't miss this opportunity." Zhu Zhengjiang said quickly, "Dad, I will go to the Zhen family mansion with you tomorrow." At the same time, it was already late at night, and the lanterns on the street were all lit. There were fewer pedestrians on the road, but it was still much more lively than other small towns. The high platforms and pavilions here were one after another. Just being in these buildings made Lu Chuan realize that he had come to a big city. Soon, they arrived in front of the Zhen family mansion. The magnificent double opening vermilion door was open, and 2 rows of guards stood at the door. When they saw Zhen Xianyu coming back, they all bowed to greet him. The girl hiding behind Lu Chuan was still a little timid at this moment, and looked around curiously. "Why not let her stay in our house to practice martial arts? We will provide her with food and accommodation, ensure that there is no safety problem, and will not let her do hard labor." Zhan Xianyu looked back at Lu Chuan and suggested, "No problem." At this time, several people from the Zhen family were sitting in the pavilion in the front yard. When they saw Zhen Xianyu coming back, they all walked towards him. "Uncle Xianyu is back." A pretty girl about 16 or 17 years old ran over and smiled sweetly at Zhen Xianyu. "Jiao, did you miss me? I missed you so much. You're finally back." Several others also came over. They were all the children of the head of the family, and also Zhen Xianyu's brothers and sisters. At this time, someone noticed Lu Chuan and the others nearby and asked quickly, "Xianyu, don't bring outsiders back casually. Our Zhen family is not a hotel." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 624, Cold Reception. The man walking towards me was wearing a black martial arts uniform and had a serious expression on his face. Zhan Xianyu quickly explained, "Brother, this is Lu Chuan. He is not an ordinary person." Zhan Xianyu's elder brother Zhen Xianheng shook his head and said, "Many people are not ordinary people. Do we have to stuff them into our house?" Zanjiao also immediately echoed, yes, uncle is right. We can't bring everyone back, let alone bring so many. Hearing this, Guzaya-san was immediately very unhappy and said, since you don't welcome us, then we can just leave. There are plenty of places that welcome us. She said angrily, then looked at Luchuan and said, let's go. Guzaya held her back. Why are you in such a hurry? Let Luchuan handle it. Then, Luchuan looked at Zanshayanayu and asked, how about I go to the ZHU family to have a look? Zanshayanayu panicked and said quickly, no need. We have already agreed on it in advance. It would be unkind of me to let you go through the trouble of making arrangements. He looked at Zanshian and said seriously, brother, no matter what, he must stay in our house today. Why? Zanshian also asked seriously. Zanshayanayu suddenly didn't know what to say. Saying that Luchuan is very good at fighting, has special fire abilities, and can save the spirit tree. After saying all this, it seems that these people can't realize the importance. Do you all know ZHU Zhengjiang, the third son of the ZHU family? Zanshian and the others nodded. Of course you know. How many people in Xianshu city don't know his name? Zanshian continued. Just after we came to Xianshu city, when ZHU Zhengjiang recognized Luchuan, he kept begging him to go to the ZHU family mansion. That attitude is almost kneeling down to him. If I wasn't there, he might really kneel down. After Zanshian finished speaking, Zanshian frowned. Xianayu, you are not the kind of person who likes to fool people. I'm not fooling you, what I said is true. Zanshian said very seriously. Zanshian looked at Luchuan. Although he looked extraordinary, he just couldn't see what was extraordinary about him. Are you sure what you said is true? Absolutely true. Okay, then I will visit the ZHU family tomorrow to see if what you said is true. Tonight, you can let them move in. Then, Zanshian looked at the other core members of the Zen family and reminded them, be careful when you go to bed tonight and lock the door. After that, Zanshian turned and left. Guzaya-san, who heard this, became even more angry. What do you mean? Are you treating us like thieves? Zanshian quickly explained. Don't be angry, he's just like that, very cautious. Luchuan looked at Zanshian and said, it seems that the people in your family don't like us very much. No, they're just slow to warm up and are not familiar with you yet. Zanshian scratched his head awkwardly. Let me arrange a guest room for you and I'll explain it to them tomorrow morning. How about this? Let your eldest brother Zanshian have a sparring match with me. He will naturally understand some things. This, forget it. What if he gets angry and hurts the relationship? Zanshian knew that his eldest brother was a face-conscious person. If he was beaten up by a young man and his head was bleeding, he would definitely feel that he had lost face and would definitely be angry. Let's go. The guest room is over here. Luchuan and the others followed Zanshian and walked in the spacious Zen family compound. Everyone has worked hard today. Have a good rest tonight. I will take you to visit Xianshu city tomorrow morning. No need. Give me the specific location of the Lu family tomorrow. I will find a time to settle accounts with them. Luchuan didn't want to be distracted by other things. His goal was very clear. Okay, let's talk about it tomorrow. After Zanshian sent them to the guest room, he breathed a sigh of relief. He felt extremely tired. The next morning, Luchuan and his friends got up early. The maid of the Zen family put breakfast on the dining table in the guest room. There are 2 rooms in the guest room. Guzaya-ora and Guzaya-san sleep in one room, and Luchuan sleeps alone in another room. After getting up in the morning, Luchuan first meditated on the bed for an hour, before walking out of the room to eat. With the spiritual energy provided by the branches of the sacred tree, Luchuan is not far from breaking through to the 9th level of the nascent soul realm. Delicious breakfast. Luchuan sat at the dining table, which was full of plates, with a total of 10 dishes with different flavors. Before eating, Guzaya-san took out a silver needle to test the poison, and said, these people still suspect that we have bad intentions, and I also suspect that they are going to do something bad in secret. After testing the poison, she sat down and started to eat. Does what happened last night make you still hate it? Guzaya-ora asked. Of course, these people are too pretentious. I can't stand it. After breakfast, you can just walk around in the yard. I'll go to Zhenxianayu to ask about the situation of the Lu family. Lu Chuan said while eating breakfast. No problem, but be careful. There are many people in this city who are watching you. Gu Xiaora reminded. Let them do whatever they want. I'm not afraid of them. When I complete the breakthrough, I will not be afraid of anyone in this Xianshu city. What if they are besieged? Gu Xiaora asked. My divine fire is not vegetarian. Lu Chuan is now full of confidence. Even if the enemy is fighting alone or besieging, he is not afraid at all. After breakfast, Zhenxianayu hurried in. Lu Chuan, I found the branch of the Lu family in Xianshu city. It's in the southern part of the city. This is the exact location. Do you want to go find them? He came over and spread a map on the table. The exact location of the Lu family was marked on the map. I'll go find them. Okay, I support you. Don't worry about that. At this moment, Zhan Xianheng also walked in. After he walked in, he looked at Lu Chuan and the others. How long do you plan to stay? Zhan Xianayu turned around and said speechlessly, brother, what are you doing here? They can stay as long as they want. That won't work. Our Zhen family is not a hotel. They can't stay as long as they want. He said with pride. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. Don't worry, we won't stay too long. That's good. Zhan Xianheng nodded slightly. Zhan Xianayu simply stretched out his hand and pulled him out, standing in the same place, and said to him, why do you have nothing to do but come here to ask this? I don't want outsiders to rely on our family. Is there a problem? As the eldest brother, I have this responsibility. Do you know why I brought him back? Zhan Xianheng asked. Of course I don't know. Tell me. Our father's hidden disease has been plaguing him for many years. We have consulted all the genius doctors in Xianshu city, but we can't find one who can cure the disease. The Lu Chuan I brought back this time has amazing abilities. He may help our father cure his illness. Are you sure? Zhan Xianayu said very seriously. Of course I'm sure. It's absolutely true. Chapter 625 Uninvited Guests. Zhan Xianheng looked at Zhan Xianayu doubtfully and asked, are you sure? I'm definitely not sure now. I must let others take a look before I draw a conclusion. No matter how I look at it, he doesn't look like a doctor. Zhan Xianheng said disapprovingly, thinking that what Zhan Xianayu said was unrealistic. Don't worry and wait. If there is a chance, I will let him meet our father. If he sees any clues, he will definitely help. I know what kind of person he is. Believe me. Zhan Xianheng nodded helplessly. Forget it. Seeing that you are speaking for him like this, I'm too lazy to pursue it. Let him stay here for a few days. Zhan Xianayu breathed a sigh of relief and then turned and walked towards the guest room. Mr. Lu, how was your breakfast? Lu Chuan looked up at him and said, not bad. How was your conversation with him? Did he agree to let us stay? Of course he agreed. He just said that casually. Don't take it seriously. Lu Chuan, after dinner, shall I take you around the mansion? He suggested. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. No problem. I don't have anything to do for the time being. However, you have to help me investigate the specific situation of the Lu family in Xianshu city. Zhan Xianayu nodded quickly. No problem. Leave this to me. You can rest assured. Then, Zhan Xianayu walked out the door. As soon as he walked out of the door, he saw a servant hurried over and stood in front of Zhan Xianheng. Sir, there is a distinguished guest visiting. Just tell me who it is. It's Zhu King Cheng, the head of the Zhu family in Xianshu city. Zhan Xianheng narrowed his eyes and asked, why is he visiting? He didn't say it directly, but he said he wanted to see you. Well, I'll go over and see what they are going to do. The Zhen family and the Zhu family didn't have much interaction, so he was very curious about why the Zhu family came to visit this time. So he walked towards the gate of the courtyard. At this time, Zhan Xianayu hurriedly chased after him and stopped him. Brother, wait a minute. Zhan Xianayu was also very curious, and he also wanted to know why the Zhu family came to visit. However, his intuition told him that the visit of Zhu King Cheng, the head of the Zhu family, might be related to yesterday evening. It must be something that Zhu Zhengjiang said after returning home that made Zhu King Cheng bring people directly to the mansion. Zhan Xianheng looked back at Zhan Xianyu and asked, "Third brother, do you have anything else to say? I want to go with you to see Zhu Qingcheng." "No problem, let's go to the meeting hall together." Zhan Xianheng readily agreed, and the two of them walked along the path in the mansion towards the meeting hall. In the meeting hall, Zhu Qingcheng and Zhu Zhengjiang, the father and son, had been waiting for a long time, and they were very anxious. "Are you sure that Lu Chuan lives in this Zhen family mansion?" Zhu Qingcheng asked. "It's true. If nothing unexpected happens, he lives here. Can you explain clearly whether you are sure or not?" Zhu Zhengjiang scratched his head and said, "When they come over later, we will know after asking them." At this time, on the path outside the meeting hall, Zhan Xianyu followed Zhan Xianheng and said, "Brother, these two people may be here for Lu Chuan." Zhan Xianheng looked back at Zhan Xianyu and smiled disdainfully. "Third brother, don't talk nonsense. In the whole Qianshu city, those who can disturb the head of the Zhu family are not ordinary people. Ordinary people can't ask the head of the Zhu family to visit in person." Zhan Xianheng frowned and guessed, maybe it's to arrange a marriage for his son. Our two families are not closely related. If we can have an alliance to enhance the family relationship, it would be a good choice. Then, Zhan Xianheng showed a worried look, "But I heard that his youngest son Zhu Zhengjiang is not a gentleman. He is treacherous and cunning, bullying the weak, and fearing the strong. If he really comes for an alliance, who should he let marry?" Just when he was worried, he suddenly realized that he had walked to the door, but he couldn't think of a suitable candidate. He took a deep breath and walked into the meeting hall. When Zhu Qingcheng, the head of the Zhu family, saw Zhan Xianheng coming in, he quickly got up to greet him. "Xianheng, I finally meet you. I've heard that you are handsome and extraordinary. Today I see that it's true. Zhan Xianyu behind you is also of the same lineage. Both are handsome." He walked over with a bright smile, first praised the two of them, and fully expressed his purpose of coming this time. Zhan Xianheng was a little dumbfounded. He didn't know what to say for a while. He was very surprised that the head of the Zhu family had such a humble attitude, which was completely inconsistent with the temperament of the richest man in Qianshu city. "Master Zhu, you are joking. What is the purpose of your visit today?" He got straight to the point and asked about his purpose. Zhan Xianheng was still curious about Zhu Qingcheng's purpose. If it was for a family marriage, he shouldn't have this attitude. He must have something to ask of them, so he said that. Zhu Qingcheng scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. "I want to ask you about someone." Zhan Xianheng quickly said, "No problem, just ask." Our Zhen family has a wide network of contacts in Qianshu city, and the intelligence coverage is also very comprehensive. We know a lot of things. "Okay, then what I want to ask is, do you know Lu Chuan?" Then, Zhu Qingcheng looked at Zhan Xianyu. "That's the person you brought into the city last night. Is he here now?" Hearing this, Zhan Xianheng was stunned. "Master Zhu, why are you asking him?" Zhan Xianyu looked at Zhu Zhengjiang next to him and asked, "Why do you tell everything to others?" Zhu Zhengjiang quickly retorted, "I told my father. Is this called telling others? So what if we know? Why are you in such a hurry?" Zhan Xianheng asked in confusion, "Why are you looking for him? He is indeed in our Zhen family mansion and just stayed for one night." "Xianheng, do you know who is our Zhu family's largest business partner at present?" Zhan Xianheng shook his head slightly. "How can I know your family affairs? It's the Hua family in Huacheng. Their family spirit tree has revived, and the spiritual energy has become unprecedentedly abundant. The surrounding flower fields are all about to have a good harvest. They will provide me with a batch of the best quality alchemy materials, which is irreplaceable by any other family. At least in the alchemy business, the Hua family is already the largest business partner of our family." Zhan Xianheng still didn't understand and asked, "What does this have to do with us?" "It has nothing to do with you, but it has a lot to do with Lu Chuan." Zhan Xianheng frowned and asked, "Please explain why it has the greatest relationship with him. He was the one who saved the Hua family's family spirit tree that was about to decline. Tell me, is this relationship big or small?" End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.